I'm making this announcement in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, being Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, laws of the state of New Jersey. The Planning Board Secretary has prepared a schedule of the meeting of the Planning Board of the Borough of Kenilworth for the year 2025 and has posted a true copy of this schedule on the bulletin board located at the front entrance Borough Hall, and has mailed true copies of this schedule to the local source and the Star Ledger, and is maintaining a copy of this schedule in Borough Hall. Accordingly, the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied in regards to this meeting. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Paserno?
Here.
Mayor Karlovich?
Here.
Mr. Screese?
Here.
Mr. Clementi?
Here.
Mr. Mazzio?
Here.
Mr. Ladowdy?
Here.
Mr. Scuderi?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Grimaldi?
Here.
Mr. Puglisi?
Here.
Beautiful. Does someone like to make a motion for the approval of the April 24th minutes? Motion made by Mr. DeLuca, seconded by Mr. Clementi. All in favor?
Aye.
Kathy, any communications?
Yes, Chairman, we received notification today for application 320 North 21st Street for minor subdivision to be carried to the June 24th meeting.
So,
Wrong address.
Oh,
That's the wrong address, yeah.
I'm sorry, the North Holdings
the
Company.
North Holding.
Yeah.
So I see Natasha's here, and with respect to everyone else, you want to take 2 minutes and tell us what you want to do, Natasha?
Natasha Montalvo on behalf of the applicant. I just hand delivered to Kevin and Christian the revised plans based off the TRC earlier this month, and we are tentatively scheduled for June 24th. We are giving Kevin and Christian time to review the plans to see if we need another TRC or we're good to proceed before the board on June 24th.
Okay. Kevin, did you brief Natasha on the architectural?
No, that's a different matter, Chairman.
Oh, that is a different matter.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Ms. Montalvo is on the mark. Her request this evening is to continue the application, which has been carried to this evening from the May meeting, pending the review of the application, excuse me, by Christian and I, to make sure that all of the required elements have been provided. She did give us copies this evening, copies of whatever you've given to me, to us rather, should go to Kathy and Wanda,
Correct.
both electronically and on paper.
Yep, sent it electronically, and I printed, again, 21 copies, just in case everybody wants to review it. I did give it to Kathy. Kathy's going to give it to Wanda to distribute.
And this is without notice, right?
Correct.
And Ms. Montalvo's on top of her game as usual. So the question before the board this evening is whether or not you wish to continue this application without further notice to the 24th of June.
How many times have this been carried?
Once.
Okay.
Once, okay.
Okay, it's up to the board whether we want to carry this, and I don't really see a reason why we shouldn't. So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I wish to see if there's anybody in the audience
Yeah.
affected by this before you make a decision.
Open this to the public?
To see if there's anybody here on this application.
Okay. Excuse me 1 second. I need a motion to open to the public.
Motion.
Motion made by Mayor Karlovich, second by Mr. Grimaldi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this case and this case only, it is to have a continuance on this application.
Anybody here on North 12th Street called North Holding?
Okay, seeing none.
Thank you, Chairman.
Motion made by Mr. Clementi, seconded by Mr. Scuderi. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're going to move this to
June 24th.
June 24th. Okay?
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Pending review by the board's professionals.
That's pending review by the board's professionals.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, next item is a resolution The resolution is application number 225-003 site plan. Mr. Rego?
Yes, at our last meeting on May 15th, the board heard and approved an application regarding the CoreWeave Data Center, 2000 Galloping Hill Road. We heard testimony regarding the building K11 on the site, approval for the data center, for the chillers, for the generators. There were two very minor dimensional variances which the board granted variances for. And this application, or this resolution, puts this together with our normal conditions. It's already been reviewed and commented upon by Steve Hale's office, the applicant's attorney. Steve had some very minor comments, which we've already incorporated. I sent them to Kathy. Kathy put them in. So what you're seeing has been signed off on by everyone.
Okay. With that being said, is there a motion to approve the resolution as it is written? Motion made by Mr. Grimaldi, seconded by Mr. Scuderi. Roll call?
Mr. Paterno?
Yes.
Mr. Scurese?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Ladowdy?
Yes.
Mr. Scuderi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimaldi?
Yes.
And Mr. Polisi?
Okay. Our next application is 24-002. It's a use variance. I just want to take 60 seconds to have Mr. Rego explain the difference between the use variance and what is normally here, and why certain members of the board cannot hear this application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a combined board in Kenilworth. It's a planning board, which many towns have, and on occasion, we hear a use variance, which this is, because what's being requested is not permitted in the zone. The law says that in a use variance situation, the planning board, Class 1 and Class 3 members, that's the mayor or the mayor's designee, and the council appointee, have to step down and not participate in the hearing because they're elected officials, and elected officials are not permitted to sit on a zoning board. So what that means is we go from non-regular members to 7, and with the mayor and the council members standing down, and of the 7, as the applicant's aware, they would need 5 of the 7 votes for approval of a use variance. And that's why we're doing this.
And in addition to that, the board does not have a problem with the mayor and the council liaison sitting in the audience, as long as it does not, as long as you don't object to that as well.
No objection, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, we're going to ask Mayor Karlovic and Liaison Scurese to have a seat in the audience. And what we're going to do before I move out of the way, because this blue light is kind of clashing with my shirt, I think what we'll do is swear in our professionals. Let's get some of the
Why don't we
things that
do
are...
that? Christian Cueto, Kevin O'Brien, our engineer planner, and also Lee Klein, who is the traffic engineer that the board retained. Gentlemen, with regard to this application, do you swear that any comments or testimony you give show the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you want? Oh, Anthony, would you want to come up here, please? Sure. Just give us 1 minute. We got to just do a little rearranging, so you don't want to look at my big head.
It doesn't fit up there anyway, right?
He's got it.
Okay.
Landlines.
We're going to get this right, I promise.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, let me just get organized again. Okay, so Lou, this is application 25-003. You are
All set, Mr. Chairman?
all set.
Good evening, folks. For the record, Larry Cali on behalf of the applicant, 251 Monroe Owner LLC. Thank you for having us this evening. The applicant's very appreciative to be here after the initial filing some months ago. It's nice to see everybody again, Mr. Chairman. I know we saw you and several members of the board about a year and a half ago or so on this property. We did a lot of cleanup. We gave the board a little bit of a fingerprint as to what happened on here for the last 70 years and moving forward. So we appreciate you hearing our case again tonight. This is, we think, a nice feel-good case with the use that we've got here on a portion of the property. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is very briefly introduce what we hope to do here tonight, describe the relief that we seek, introduce you to our deck of witnesses. There's probably going to be 3, and then we can be off to the races with witness testimony, absent any housekeeping items, if that's okay with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, for the benefit of the board and the record, just briefly, I know the board is familiar with the site, and we've gone through this site ad nauseum not that long ago. It's 251 Monroe. It's several blocks and lots. It's Block 6, Blocks 101 and 103, Block 23, Lot 2, Block 24, Lot 1, and Block 62, Lot 1. Comprehensively, this operates as a functional single campus of operators, multiple commercial structures, multiple tenants. There's warehousing, there's contractor storage yards. We went through the whole deck of existing tenants on there last time we were here over this sprawling 43-acre site in the industrial zoning district. Tonight we're here for a very limited ask on a portion of the property, a relatively small portion of the property. We're adding an additional tenant. It's Durham School Services. They provide school transportation, maintenance, and dispatch to the immediate community. I think about 5,000 students get the benefit of riding on these buses one way or another in their school systems in the immediate area, in the county, in nearby areas. Our engineer will walk you through a little bit more about what Durham does from an operational perspective, but it's exactly what you would expect for school buses. They're in the morning, the drivers and the aides, they leave their personal cars there, they're out on the road, they're trying to safely bring children to and from school and their activities. They come back, they return, and then they're back at the end of the day, getting in their personal cars and going home. We'll go over all the numbers as to who's here over the course of a day, the number of buses, employees, aides, who's on site, who's not shortly, but just high-level picture, school bus transportation on a portion of the property that's proposed. That alone is what brings us to this board in your capacity as a board of adjustment, because there's use variance relief necessitated by virtue of the fact that that is not an enumerated use under the code of the I zoning district. The school bus transportation and parking, it triggers use relief. It's arguably less impactful than other uses on this site as of right, but it just doesn't fit within the code. So there's D relief, incidental to the site plan as well that's being required. Like I said, Mr. Chairman, it is a relatively simple and feel-good story to tell. We'll have 3 witnesses that will present this tonight through their testimony. We might bring in some exhibits. We'll mark them as we go if we do have any exhibits, but you'll hear first from our project engineer, Rob Frood. Rob is the scrivener of record. He's a director with Dynamic Engineering, prepared the plan of record before the board. Mr. Frood was with me during the prior application, you might recall, and testified during that application for DOCA, one of the other tenants on the property when we were here several months ago. Mr. Frood will walk you through the areas that we are developing, and really it's utilizing. There's not really all that much happening here. There are some improvements, they're mostly accessory to this area of property that the tenant will occupy, Durham School. And Mr. Frood will also explain to you what we anticipate the operations being day over day by virtue of our intelligence that we have from the applicant's tenant, who is telling us exactly what they do as a business. They're not a fly-by-night, they're in business already, and this is what they do. So we'll give you the full picture as to what is going to happen on site day over day in this area of the tenanted space. We've also got our traffic engineer with us as well. We've submitted a traffic assessment to the board previously from Dynamic Traffic. Connor Hughes will be here with us this evening to testify. I know you have Mr. Klein with you as well as the board's counterpart on traffic, so we're glad to go through that dialogue. We did have the benefit of going through the Harbor report, the Klein report, as well as Kevin's report as well. So all of our witnesses have reviewed their counterpart reports, and we will testify to them during our direct testimony, hopefully square away any of the lingering questions or inquiries, Mr. Chairman and members. Third, you'll be hearing from our project planner, Paul Rickey. Paul is a relatively local consultant. He actually represents a lot of communities in this immediate area. He is our project planner. Paul will testify as to the justifications for the variance relief, notwithstanding the fact that I've introduced them as being feel-good and nominal. It's use variance relief. We have to go through the proofs, the statutory proofs, as vetted out through the case law. Mr. Rickey will walk the board through that to your satisfaction. We hope to justify this use being on this property, notwithstanding the fact that the code does not explicitly permit it. And at that point, we hope to let the board deliberate favorably, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Kelly, your first witness here, I guess? Not
Yes, sir,
witness.
Mr. Chairman. So we'll call Ron Frood, our civil engineer for Dynamic Engineering.
Would you raise your right hand, please, with regard to this application? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Could you state your name and spell your last name, please, for the record?
Sure. It's Robert Frood, F as in Frank, R-E-U-D.
Thank you.
Professional address is Dynamic Engineering, 1904 Main Street, Lake Como, New Jersey.
Rob, for the benefit of the board, your background experience and licensing credentials, please?
Certainly. So I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Lehigh University. I've been practicing civil engineering and land development consulting for about 30 years. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, if it would save some time on behalf of the board, Mr. Fruit has been here on numerous occasions. I've worked with him in other municipalities, and provided his license is still in good standing and current, so the board may wish to consider his qualifications.
I think his qualifications are impeccable as long as they're still active.
License is still current. Thank you.
Good.
We appreciate that. Rob, I'll let you take it away.
Mr. Fruit, if there's anything that you're going to show us that we don't have already, please let us know so we can mark it.
I will. I have really two exhibits, both of which are a little bit specific for tonight. So we'll start here. This is an aerial map exhibit. Are we going to go A1, or do we have other stuff already marked?
A1, and this is an aerial map.
Yeah.
Undated, we will mark it today digitally, and we can send this in lieu digitally after the hearing, so you have it in your
That's
records as
fine.
well.
The A1 aerial map, and this was done relatively recently?
The exhibit is dated in the lower right corner, today's date, 5/27/2025. The image itself is from Google. It's from July 24th of 2024.
Thank you.
We have enhanced the image with certain identifiers to help walk the testimony through here. Just for reference, north, we have an arrow here. North is at the top of the page, so generally running up, down, and left, right with north, south, east, and west. The property itself is outlined in yellow. As Mr. Cali indicated, the lots and blocks, 251 Monroe Avenue, it is about 43.4 acres. We also have in the purple, running down the left side or the west side of the property is municipal boundary. We have several municipalities surrounding here, and then the blue colors are zone boundary lines. So to walk the board again through where we are, we have the park and the Rahway River that borders the west and north side of the property here, predominantly wooded. I'll get into some of the environmental constraints with that, with wetlands and floodplain in a moment. On the east side of the property is North 8th Street with Monroe Avenue coming across the end here. That is a mix of commercial, industrial, and residential uses. To the south, we have a residential neighborhood here along the side of the property. Digging into the property itself, as Mr. Cali indicated, this property has existed for a number of years. A lot of it predates even the post-war residential development in the neighborhood to the south. It's a mix of buildings that have been developed and redeveloped over the years. In red, it's a little bit hard to see, but we have the buildings numbered based upon really just ownership, management of the site for identification. I'll get to those in a minute. The south, really half of the property, I'm outlining about the center line of the property. Everything south of there, we were here about 2 years ago for DOCA to permit their use of that space for outdoor storage of some of their materials. Some of the board members may remember that application. With that application, it was really, I believe, the first time this property was before a board in Kenilworth, Illinois. That's why I can have a lot. So I remember this. The first time this application has been before a board in Kenilworth, so we went through a lot of history here. I won't belabor that again tonight, but where we left off was, again, DOCA occupying for their storage the south half of the property. The rest of the property was organized and brought through the use variance process and permitted for trailer parking and for outdoor storage, as well as all the various uses that are in the buildings contained therein. As I mentioned, the Rahway River does have a floodplain component. The flood elevation is about 76, and I'll get into some reference points on that with the site elevation in a few minutes. But some of the site is inundated during the most severe storms on site. The 10-year storms, so more frequent storms, doesn't really come into the site. The 10-year storm really stays around the perimeter of the site. It's the more infrequent storms, the 100-year and the flood hazard area design flood storms that do begin to inundate the site by a foot or two. We have a flood hazard area verification from the NJDEP for those numbers and an individual permit for the use that's proposed here and the site improvements that are proposed here. That was issued about a year ago in August of 2024. There are also wetlands specifically associated with the banks of the Rahway River and a few spots along the south side of the property. We have an LOI application to confirm those wetlands pending with the DEP. It has been there for the better part of a year, and we're waiting for feedback, although preliminary feedback and back and forth we've had is that the delineation that's shown on our plans will be accepted by the DEP, and we're just working through the final stages of issuing the letter of interpretation. We did go through a little bit of environmental constraints on this site with the last application. There is an LSRP, or a licensed site remediation professional, involved with this property. It's Impact Environmental. There are two spots that are deed restricted on the site. One is in the northeast side, a small rectangular space that's deed restricted. The other is on the northwest side, north of the buildings, that's deed restricted. This application does not impact either of those areas based upon consultation with Impact Environmental. There is no update to the current soil remediation action plan that is being progressed today. So there's no impact or action required as a result of this application. The site itself is generally flat throughout the developed area. Where we're talking about the north half of the property generally grades north towards the Rahway River. As we zoom into the next exhibit, we'll get into a little more of that. And that is probably a good time to flip exhibits. So now we're going to go to a site plan rendering. So now what we've done is same orientation, north is at the top of the page. We will call this A2. It's titled Site Plan Rendering. It also bears today's date, 5/27/2025. It has an aerial background with the site plan improvements superimposed that are based upon the site plans that this board has before them, which is revision number 6 of the plans, which have a latest date of March 26, 2025. So we're now looking at where I'm drawing about through the center of the exhibit is that north-south line I mentioned. Everything at the bottom of the page in the aerial image is a portion of the Doka lease space. It continues beyond that. At the top, you see several of the buildings to remain. There's a building in each of the dark colored areas that will be removed. Specifically, there are 5 buildings. They're numbered on the plan 20, 25, 28, 31, and 32. One of those is on the west side, north of this building. Buildings, again, in the central area here, and then to the right or east side. All buildings being removed for the creation of additional paved surface area for the bus storage. We're also
Can I interrupt you 1 second, please?
I'm sorry?
Can I interrupt? 1
Absolutely.
second? So when you pointed to the northwest area there, up there, which is going to be removed.
Yes.
Where is that in relationship to the area that's deed restricted?
So the deed restriction line, I'm highlighting it now with the pen, with the wraps around the building that's being removed.
Okay.
So the building itself is not in the deed restricted area. So when we take the building down and put the pavement in its place, it will be outside the deed restricted area. There's no improvements proposed in that deed restriction.
Thank you.
I appreciate the clarification there. So in that area, while we're talking about that, is we are relocating some of the outdoor storage areas. If you recall from the prior application and on the prior exhibits, throughout the site we had delineated outdoor storage areas that were dual purpose permission for trailer parking and or outdoor storage, similar to, say, what Doka is doing. There was one of those storage area number, I believe it was 14, number 6 is being removed, and we're creating storage area number 14 here, north of the last building on the page. That will be 15 trailer spaces, again, and/or outdoor storage in that space. Otherwise, we're going to take building 33 here, which is really in the middle of the page. I don't know how to make that time out longer, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to keep.
I thought the borough didn't pay the electric bill.
Too busy buying shirts.
It's got to be one or the other.
So the subject of the application is really building 33 here, which is at the center of the page. That building will be reoccupied and used for Durham Bus as their base of operations and maintenance facility. With that, we'll be adding several overhead doors on the north face of the building to allow for access in and out. All repairs, all activity will be inside the building. Anything outside the building will be really limited to the bus storage and vehicle parking. There is no change to the exterior of the building. It's basically a metal panel building other than the addition of the 3 overhead doors on that north side. No signage proposed as part of this application. Everybody coming and going will know where Durham Bus is. We don't need signage out at the street. As far as access, if you recall from the prior application, as you come from the east side, from Monroe and 8th, you come into the site through a common access driveway. One driveway to the site feeds the entire facility. There's a common drive. There's a common drive that runs along the south of the building. You can also circulate and get to the north side of the building to get into the site. All of these drives are two-way, full width, full movement driveways, providing circulation. We've reviewed that with fire trucks for fire truck circulation. Certainly the removal of buildings, the addition of asphalt pavement will improve emergency vehicle circulation throughout the site. From a zoning perspective, I'll just touch briefly because we'll have our planner come up and talk about the use elements of zoning. From a bulk criteria and zoning standpoint, there's no change to any setbacks or coverages. Anything that's coming down and going up as pavement is within currently disturbed areas. So our impervious coverage remains the same at about 64.3%, still a bit less than the 80% that's allowed by the ordinance. All of the other, certainly our building coverage is coming down because we're taking down a few buildings. The one element that does need to be touched on this evening is outdoor storage. If you recall, there is a limit on percent of outdoor storage that's allowed within the zone. That's 10%. At the prior application, we were approved at 19.5%. As we carry that forward when we provide for this bus parking, we're now at 19.7%. So there's a minor increase in order for the creation of the use of bus parking, if that bus parking is considered outdoor storage, and our planner will get to that in a moment. Otherwise, we do satisfy the bulk criteria. As Mr. Kelly indicated, over the past year or so, through the life of this application, we've worked a lot with Durham Bus to learn their operations and make sure that this site will accommodate their operations as best as possible. And with that, we have gone through
The Passaic River. I like it.
For the record, that is not a view from the back of our property. At typical hours for Durham Bus, and as Mr. Calley indicated, it's an established business. Their hours are set. They have their routes set. We're just moving them into this facility. Generally, it's about 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. That comes in a number of facets. Drivers will arrive or begin to arrive around 5 a.m. Buses will depart by about 7:45. They'll be on their routes for several hours in the morning, and then they'll return for an afternoon shift about 1 to 3:15. And again, they'll be on routes for a couple hours, finally returning around 6 or 7 p.m. And we would estimate that the final drivers have left the site by about 7:30. In one regard, that's important because we'll get into lighting in a minute. There will be a few hours in the evening in the winter months where we will require some lighting throughout the site, and I'll get into
details and hours of lighting in a minute. But for the most part, this portion of the site, this lease area, will be completed with their business operations by about 7:30 p.m. Again, this is school buses coming and going. We have Building 33, which will be utilized for base operations, dispatch, maintenance, all of that will happen in site. There will be general materials that are used during bus maintenance, oils, other things like that will be contained inside the building. All of that will be reviewed through the building department when we make application to do the interior fit out in that space, and all of that will comply with local building and state codes for storage of those types of materials. All trash recycling will be handled inside the building. There is not a remote dumpster here. We encourage all the bus drivers when they clean their buses to bring that inside the building so that it's not outside at the end of the day. And then refuse and recycling will be picked up about once a week as needed, but generally about once a week. They'll come in, they'll circulate through the same patterns that the bus drivers would through the site, come in. The containers will be brought outside for disposal there. There are about 136 total employees in Durham Bus, with about 115 on site at any given time. That includes, of that, there are 95 drivers. About 6 drivers are employed by Durham that keep their bus off site. There are about 30 aides that ride with the bus drivers. Of those, about half of them are picked up remotely, probably closer to their routes. Then there's 11 on-site staff, whether it's dispatch or maintenance, that will be on site generally during the day at various shifts. So for those employees, we look at the parking that's provided. And the parking comes in various components here because we have different types of buses. We have a full-size bus, we have a shorter bus, and we have employee parking. There's a total of 16 car parking spaces, and that works well because, again, we have about 11 on-site staff that are not bus drivers or aides that will park in any of those 16 spaces. We have 101 bus parking spaces provided, and the way the operations will work, driver comes in, they have the keys to the bus, they'll stage in the drive aisle adjacent to their bus, pull the bus out, their car goes into the space. If there's an aide that's coming to the site to dispatch with the bus, because of the length of the bus stalls, they can park tandem in that bus space. So it saves a lot of pavement, it's very efficient use of space to have those bus drivers and aides parking within the bus space on site. The other thing, as I mentioned, is on the left side, just as we're zoomed in now, we have the additional 15 trailer spaces, which is outdoor storage area 14. That's outside the lease area, but that is part of this site plan application. That would really be part of the prior discussion of use. So overall, the way that the ordinance looks at this type of use, it is one parking space per employee. Again, we have a total of 115 employees in various shapes and forms. We have 115 spaces required, and we have 117 total spaces provided on site for Durham. So operationally, I think it's a very efficient use of space. Again, full circulation throughout the site, getting the vehicles in and out. I mentioned briefly the flood hazard. Again, that flood hazard elevation is about 76. The site is anywhere but a couple feet below that. So during that flood hazard design storm, which is greater than the 100-year storm or greater than the 1% chance storm in elevation, will have anywhere between a foot or two of inundation over a portion of this site today and with the proposed development. As part of this project, I mentioned we do have an approval from the DEP for flood hazard and an individual permit for the use and the disturbance on site. The stormwater on site has been reviewed by the DEP. Part of their review was the use and the buses that are on site being in the flood hazard area. We provided buoyancy calculations for that. We provided some reinforcement on the fence for extra safety measures. This has been reviewed and approved again by the state for the buses. The intention here is that if you get to a point where there is a severe storm, and we're talking about not a frequent once-a-year storm or even a 10-year storm, but a 100-year storm, a major hurricane, something of that nature, the buses would remain on site. I would expect that staff would not be reporting to the site that day. It would be a state of emergency at that point. So we would not have schools, we would not have staff reporting to site. So the buses would be secure here. The DEP, again, has reviewed it and in great detail and approved that. I mentioned they also reviewed stormwater. We presented stormwater also to the County Soil Conservation District. They had reviewed and approved it. We presented stormwater also to Christian with Harbor for review and approval as well. Quickly, these days, stormwater is reviewed, again, by the state, by the Conservation District, and by the borough. There's 4 major components. Well, I guess leading into that, this is considered a major development because we have a little bit over an acre of land disturbance. What that means is we now look at 4 major components of stormwater: quantity, quality, groundwater recharge, and now green infrastructure. Of those 4 standards, groundwater recharge, because this is a redevelopment in a state planning area number 1, we do not provide groundwater recharge here. We're exempt from that. Water quantity, we look at pre-development conditions versus post-development conditions. As I mentioned, the site is a net balance in impervious coverage. We're taking out some buildings and putting some pavement back in. So because of that, there's no stormwater quantity attenuation required. All of the runoff from the site will be collected within existing infrastructure on site that goes to pipes that lead to the north towards the Rahway River, as they do today. What that leaves are 2 components. Water quality, because we are converting building coverage to vehicle surface area, we are required to enhance the water quality on the site and provide 80% total suspended solids removal. We're doing that through the form of pervious pavement. We have 2 sections of pervious pavement. The darker shaded areas are our new parking area and pavement. Within those areas, we'll have pervious pavement. What that means is the pavement itself, when saturated and soaked with water, the rainwater will run right through into filter area, gravel area that will provide the suspended solids removal and to 80% minimum before it's discharged out. In this case, because we're not doing recharge, there's a liner under that system and an under drain, which means anything that's collected as it goes through the pavement is not recharged into the ground. It's collected in a pipe and it connects to the existing infrastructure on site that will then discharge to the Rahway River. The final component is green infrastructure, and porous pavement is considered a green infrastructure. I'm learning. Engineering's all about, trial and error. and repeat. So that's the design of our stormwater system. It has been reviewed and vetted by the DEP, as well as the Conservation District, and approved. Christian had a few comments in his last letter from the 20th of May that we have no issue complying with and addressing as part of resolution requirements. Only a few other things from me. Utilities are pretty straightforward. We're taking out a couple buildings. We'll cut and cap the utilities there. The retrofit of Building 33, which will be Durham Bus's headquarters, may require some minor plumbing adjustments that will be handled through the building department, nothing that rises to the level of new water service or new electric service or anything like that that require permits at a higher level. We are proposing some lighting here. As I mentioned, the hours of operation, there will be several hours in the evening in the wintertime where there would be lights that need to be turned on. We have done that through implementation of 5 pole-mounted lights throughout the lease area and 6 wall-mounted lights throughout the lease area. They're mounted at heights of 20 feet on the building and 25 feet on the pole-mounted lights. We are requesting relief for the height of the light. The ordinance requests 15 feet, it contemplates 15 feet high. Because of the nature of this property, where we are far removed from any surrounding uses. As you recall, anything north here is the Rahway River and buffer area before the park. So the additional height of the lights allows for better coverage less number of fixtures, which can help reduce the intensity of light in hotspots. And just a general better coverage here. And again, because we're storing buses, we have a little bit longer spread between drive aisles and where we can put lights. So really, the higher light mounting height is a benefit and appropriate in this space with no negative impact. We have less than half-foot candle at the north property line, and it diminishes to nothing. That's before we model any of the trees or vegetation that's in there. There was a question about timing of lights. We are sensitive to both security and safety, as well as any potential nuisance. Because this facility will shut down around 7:30, we could have these lights turned off at 8 o'clock. Everything on the site, just for the record, everything on the site is controlled by a gate and a perimeter fence. So security is generally handled throughout the site, not just within the lease area. So we can turn off the lights. We would turn off the pole lights at about 8 o'clock. We would like to...
Kind of like that. Goes right now.
Lights are out.
There you go. Lights out.
We would ask to leave the building lights on if operations felt it was necessary overnight, just for, again, safety and security purposes. And ultimately, we'd like to leave that to operations of Durham. But that would have, again, in my opinion, no negative impact on surrounding uses because there are no neighbors, no residential neighbors on this side of the property. The final comment, there were some questions in the review letters about landscaping. Because we're working wholly within the developed area, within paved area, and replacing that with paved surface, we're not proposing landscaping here. If you remember the last application when DOCA came in on the south side, very different situation. We had neighbors adjacent to us. We provided a fair amount of screening adjacent to that. In this case, we have 100 feet, over 100 feet along the north property line of vegetation before you get to the river that will not be disturbed because it's wetland and floodplain. So there's a lot of vegetation screening and surrounding the property as it is today. So we would not propose any new landscaping within the islands. It really just becomes a maintenance and nuisance problem at that point. That's all I have. I just want to reiterate the approvals that are required in addition to this board. Union County provided approval in July of 2024, the Somerset Union SED in September of 2024, the flood hazard at the DEP was in August of 2024. The wetlands, again, it's pending. We've had correspondence with them as recently as April, going through some of their comments. We believe that we've satisfied everything at this point. We hope to get that LOI very soon. Otherwise, we've received the letters from your engineer, from your traffic engineer, from your planner. I believe I've covered everything in my direct testimony that won't be handled by our traffic engineer or planner. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Fruit, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Fruit. Anyone from the board have any questions at this time? We can certainly call them up later after we hear other testimony, if you like. I think that might be the best way to handle this because, again, the questions may come up in further testimony. Yes, sir.
I believe we have some questions.
Oh,
If you want to do them
yeah, as
now.
far as our professionals go, yeah.
Unless the
We
board
could
is,
go back and forth.
thank you, Jim. Mr. Fruit, a couple of items which I mentioned in my report. Item D, Delta on page 2. Can you tell us what's gone on with the DOCA application in terms of the fencing, gates, enhanced buffering, trailer storage, and outdoor storage that were permitted? Have those items been placed on site? Are they still being placed?
I believe the DOCA is operational, yes. I believe they've been through any necessary certificate of occupancy.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just trying to keep this to engineering questions. Item M from Mike, the maintenance products for buses, oil, other fluids, batteries, etc. Where are they going to be stored?
They'll all be inside the building.
How will spillage be handled?
There will be,
There has to be a plan.
within the building, there will be necessary cleanup provisions in accordance with the code. That'll all be reviewed by the building department.
And when you go back on, we'll do that.
And how are the used fluids removed?
They'll be disposed of by a licensed disposal facility, again, all contained on-site until they're removed by a licensed facility.
Thank you. Where will vehicles be fueled?
Not on-site, no fueling on-site.
You said that you've discussed this application with the fire department and other borough officials. Everybody's happy?
I don't believe we received
Scratch that.
official documentation from the fire department, but I know with the previous application review, the full site circulation, this is more open, in my opinion, than previous. To your question about access, I believe, my understanding from ownership is there's a Knox box at the gate on the way into the site. The building itself, they will provide necessary provisions for access during building department review.
So if they have not spoken with the fire official and the fire department, they will.
Yes.
Is there a county planning board letter on this application, or is that
There
a
is.
question for Mr. County?
Yeah, that was approved in July. What did I say, July?
For this application?
For this application, correct. Yes, the approvals I just cited were all for this particular application.
I don't remember.
Do you remember seeing that?
He provided a copy.
Yeah.
It would have been addressed to the borough, but we will send out a copy.
Yeah, none of us remember seeing it, but you know, they say the mind is the first thing to go. So, just as a backup, if you could send this around. Oh, it's very happy smiles.
Thank you. What was that?
Just an inside joke, okay. Okay, signs. Describe the security and the gates, the access to the site itself. How will that work for the school bus operation? Is it keyed in? Badges, cards, gates are open, or is that addressed elsewhere?
We can get you a specific answer on that. I don't have the exact answer of that. I know that
Very
the
good.
gate at the entrance to the facility is managed by site operations and each tenant. We can get you
Very
specifics
good.
on that.
Kathy, do you want to turn off the blue light so these guys aren't blinded? Is that possible?
Are you done?
At least for the moment.
Yeah, we can.
We can turn it back on?
Yeah.
Okay. Question, Mr. Fruit. Since we are increasing our impervious cover,
We are not increasing.
I'm
impervious
sorry,
cover.
we're increasing our
Motor vehicle surface area.
outdoor storage cover.
Outdoor storage, yes.
Like I said, behind is the first thing to come. Is there a way to remove pavement from this area to make up for that? Is there any pavement you can identify on the plan?
We did look at, when we did the site, we did look at efficiency of pavement space on site.
They're not, I don't think they're done.
They're not
Maybe
done?
not done, I'm sorry. We'll find out.
they're
I don't know if
not
our
done.
traffic engineer wants to.
Rather than blind
So we'll get it
forever,
done,
we
yeah.
turn out the light and continue this.
Thank you, Kevin, I appreciate it. I will move back over there when the next
So anyway, back to,
So I'll give some site background on that. I think our planner will touch on that a little bit more, but I look at that as two very different coverage categories. One is use-based, which is the outdoor storage
Right.
that's being reviewed. The other is pavement impervious coverage.
oh, absolutely.
Pavement impervious coverage, we're well below the 80% that's allowed.
agreed.
And we provide stormwater management even to mitigate the vehicle surface area. The outdoor storage area is a use component. I'm going to let our planner talk about that.
So my question is, as an engineer, is there a way we can remove pavement without affecting the operation?
I don't believe so, no.
Is that something you could take a closer look at upon the specific question?
We did look at it throughout the process. I will look at it again. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Mr. Rego, if you could make a note of that.
Kevin, I had a hard time hearing you there. Did you ask if he could remove the impervious pavement?
I asked the engineering question as to whether or not, since the outdoor storage area is being increased, requiring an additional variance, if there was a way on site to remove some of the impervious cover. This is a very large site.
Okay.
There's a lot of impervious cover on it. I thought maybe we can get rid of some of it, which will also help with the flooding, which we know is inevitable.
And I think we have, and I heard Mr. Fruit just indicate that, they've been on site for about 4 years now on this site, dynamic engineering, scouring the site for development opportunities, preceding DOCA, cleaning it up during that process, and this one now. I don't see a direct nexus, Mr. Fruit testified, between mitigating that variance relief for outdoor storage percentage, which is going up quantitatively 2/5 of 0.2%, 1/5 of a percent, and storage capacity, the other end of impervious coverage control, since we're underneath. I understand there's give and take, and can you look at it, did you look at it? We did, Mr. Chairman and members, review it. Even getting that delta down in impervious coverage, we're still in the green, we're still compliant today or tomorrow, whether it came down or not. It doesn't really mitigate anything related to relief of outdoor storage, but the punchline ultimately is, I don't think it can be done for purposes of circulation satisfaction on site. It has to be the way it is, and remain the way it is, I think, Rob, is that right, at the end of the day?
Yeah, as you said, we've looked at this a number of times over the years, and we've really kept it as efficient as possible, I believe.
I agree with Mr. Colley's assessment, which is that these are two different aspects of the ordinance. However, this is a use variance, and a use variance is to be considered by the board in its entirety, because the use itself, one that is not permitted in the zone, includes all of the bulk requirements. And during a use variance, the board does not allow an individual bulk variance. Instead, they're all part of the overall use variance. And you don't turn, scratch that. So that's why I bring it up. I asked the question, Mr. Fruit said they would take a look at it. I think that's a wonderful answer, and perhaps we can look at it. Possible? Wonderful. If they say from an engineering perspective they cannot, we have our answer. If it pleases the board.
And leaving it there is fine with us, Mr. Chairman. You will hear testimony from our planner. Again, there's no bulk relief related to impervious coverage, and there's no cognizable nexus between the use relief and lowering compliant coverage as I see it. But that said, we want to work with the borough. We always have. That's why this applicant's been here a number of times. We will look at it. I think we've heard relatively clear from the engineer that it cannot be further reduced. We're glad to look at it, but I don't see the connection point from a legal perspective.
Mr. Colley, I agree, there is no connection point. This is a use variance. And please correct me, Mr. Fruit said that they could look at it. Now, if you can't look at it, your mind is made up, there's nothing to be done, let's kill the issue. You tell me.
It does raise a question.
As I said, we've looked at this site for a number of years now.
Tell me if you can look at it, or you've looked at it enough, you can't look at it anymore. You're the engineer. You tell us so we don't.
In my opinion, we've reviewed and exhausted the options here to keep this safe and efficient while productive, and this is where we are. We brought in our best application.
Not quite the answer, Mr.
This is, I think, I'll translate. This is it.
I'll tell you what. Mr. Fruit is the expert here. His testimony is on the record. With all due respect, Mr. Campbell.
Well, with all due respect, we're trying to connect dots that don't connect here from a legal perspective. Our planner will get into that. There is zero connection point between the ask of reducing coverage of a compliant site and saying it's got a nexus to the bulk relief and then tying that into saying it's subsumed within the use relief. It is incredibly attenuated, and that's being respectful, Mr. O'Brien. That said, what I heard from Mr. Fruit was they've exhausted it. They're not looking any further at reducing coverage. It is compliant again for the record.
Chairman, I leave it to the board for its interpretation.
Well, thanks. My question is that you've asked if there was a way to get rid of impervious coverage, and he said he looked at everything he possibly could. What would be your recommendation of how to accomplish that? What would you put in place of that? What would you do? Do you have an idea?
I'm going to lean towards our engineer. Is it possible to look at this application and see if there's anything else that can be done?
It's possible.
It is possible?
It is possible. But if he says that he looked at it and he can't find anything, I would defer to that. But I specifically haven't looked at it. kind of sort forward.
So you leave me in an awkward position.
Well, perhaps, Chairman, as resolution compliance, should the board act favorably? Let's have the two engineers talk and see if they can identify anything. And if they can't, they're going to tell us they can't. If they can, it's a win for everybody and then they get rid of something. And the board accepts the two professionals' report on this.
Mr. Chairman, Dynamic has no issues at all working with Harbor, post-approval, if this board acted favorably in the application to see if there's anywhere we can cut out any of the fat in the property. We don't think there is. I think he said that several times. We're glad to work with Christian's office post-application.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Mr.
the engineer's been on the site for years, right? The easiest answer for him to do was say, yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it. But in his expert opinion, he's been there for a lot of years saying, no, I think it's a pretty honest answer.
Yeah.
That's my thought on this, right? I mean, why wouldn't he say, oh, yeah, I'll take a look at it to appease the board when he's being very honest and saying he's been exhaustively looking at this site and can't find anything? That's just my opinion. If you want to look at it, then if you want to look at it, that's fine. But I mean, the logical answer for anybody that's trying to get approval would be say, yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it when there's really nothing there.
No,
That's
we
my
appreciate
thought.
that. That's our takeaway as well. And look, we know he needs some IT help, right? We realize that, but he's a stellar engineer.
So, you know, you have to remember, we have professionals out there on, it's not your side and our side. We represent the borough. So what we have to also understand is what our planner and our engineer is saying. Now, our engineer is also saying that there may be a way, but I haven't heard the way, that is maybe not cost-effective, it's not practical. What are we alluding to? Like, I could do this, I would love to do it, but it just blows the project out of the water. What is it? Pardon the pun.
They would have to find a specific area that could just be turned into open space. That would be the easiest answer.
Okay,
If you're only looking at 0.2% of the site, that doesn't sound like a large area.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. Ladati, thank you very much. That was good. Yes, sir.
I have a further question about lighting. We have not seen a lighting plan. What kind of wall lights? Are they wall packs? And if so, where is that light going out to? Or are they full cutoff fixtures?
So that would be on page 8 of the site plan set.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry. I just had a sidebar.
What was the question, Kevin? I'm sorry.
Concerning lighting? Oh, I'm sorry. I see the fixtures noted, Mr. Cruz. And the location, but what are they going to look like? What are they going to do?
The light details will be on the detail sheet number, sheet 12 of the set has the specs on the lights. They're downward focused LED fixture. So full cut off, no forward rotor glare.
That includes the wall fixtures?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Thank you very much. That's it, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
I apologize for the lighting question, I must have missed it.
We'd like to hear from our engineer first.
You answered most of my questions already, and yeah, as you said, you're going to address all my comments in my letter as part of the resolutions of conditions of approval. I just wanted to confirm you're okay with adding an oil water separator for right upstream of all the connections you're making with the overflows?
So we talked about this, and I'll just, for the record, or for the board, I should say, my opinion is oil water separators, or if we did not have any type of stormwater mitigation, we were direct discharge. In this case, we have the pervious pavement, which provides the 8% TSS removal, so it provides a fair amount of mitigation of that runoff. All the repairs are being done inside. If needed, we'll have the floor drains necessary with separation. Anything that's outside is no different than another parking lot. So in my opinion, they're not required, but if it's something the board, professionals feel is necessary here, I think we'd be okay to provide.
He is correct, like, for TSS removal, all he needs is the pervious pavement. I am recommending the oil water separator as an additional safeguard due to the amount of vehicles that are going to be parked over in this area. And over the lengths, everything discharges into the Rowary River. So that would be my recommendation, and I defer to the board.
Is the oil water separator at the inlets? You're talking in the
Upstream
parking
of
lot?
the inlets.
So from what I understand, you are saying that if an oil water separator is something that we're asking for, you will be in compliance. Did I hear that correctly?
They're already in compliance. This is an addition. This
In
is-
addition?
This is an
They'd
addition.
be belt and suspended, sure.
Okay, is that something that you would agree to if we're looking for that?
Yeah, I mean,
Simple, okay?
And the only other issue is going back to the lighting. You said, is it just for the lease area that the lights will go off at 8 PM, or is it for the entire site?
so Durham Bus only has control of the lights that they're putting in, that's the lease area, correct?
Okay.
If you recall, when we were here for Doak, I don't believe they have any lights that were part of the application, so we're specifically focused on Durham Bus. And because their hours of operation may differ from other tenants.
Okay. There has been some resident complaints about the lighting at later hours for the site. Just wondering, that's why I'm confirming that.
Yeah. Just this tenant space is the lighting testimony, we shut off, because it ties into the hours of operation. If I recall, I don't know which neighbors it might be, but at the last application, principals of the applicant ownership entity were here, as they are with us now. They met out in the hallway with the neighbors. We were all made nice by the end of the night, traded business cards, said, call us if you have any problems. That door remains open. I don't think my client has heard directly from anybody, because they would have told me before we walked in here tonight, said, by the way, Susie Smith at 12 Main Street has, whatever. We've heard nothing, so our lines of communication remain completely open to the neighbors if they have any issues with lighting. We'll work with them. We haven't heard booths, so we don't know the specifics of that.
Okay.
To that point, Mr. Fruiter, are these lights in existence now?
No.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
That's it? Okay, well, I thought we would wait, but it opened the door for a
We'll
couple
still
of
be here,
more.
Mr. Chairman. If something comes up that you think of and Mr. Fruit's needed, we'll
Okay.
come back up and,
I just got 2 or 3 little questions, and I just want to put a couple things to bed, Mr. Scuderi.
I have one thing, and I think because our planner opened the door with this question. I was at a barbecue behind the property the other day, and none of the screening was done. And you could see right through to all the property, lights shining right in those houses, and none of the screening was done.
on the south side.
At least in that section, yeah, so, and it's been 2 years.
You're talking about the Doga property.
Doga property,
What street?
Pembroke.
So, why are we driving Doga? I thought we already heard Doga. Now, Doga has, I know it's in direct proportion to what we're doing here, but they came before us a couple years ago, and they said they were going to do all these wonderful things, so, pardon me, I'm sorry, guys. Are we trying to say that they didn't do what they were supposed to do before, so why are we, what are we actually saying? I heard Doga 5, 6 times. Are we really supposed to be talking about that?
If I may, Chairman, the question was asked whether or not the former site plan, previous site plan, had met the resolution conditions. With Mr. Scuderi's testimony before the board, this board may wish to transmit to our zoning official.
Exactly.
To please check and make sure that the resolution conditions have
Yeah.
been met. It's not the jurisdiction of this board.
Okay, Mr. Scuderi, I appreciate what you're saying. I don't feel that this applicant at this point should be on the chopping block for what went on in the past. However, if there is a condition that someone didn't do, it's not part of this testimony, and I really think it's going to convolute decisions that could be made. So I would ask, if things are going to go down that pike, we need to rethink what we're saying, because I just know what can happen when that happens, but I appreciate.
I was just doing it because it was in our planning report, so.
Yeah.
At the time, I really didn't think it was, but then I thought maybe it was because we went through our planning.
I just want to keep them two clearly separate. I would,
Yeah, that should be referred to enforcement.
yeah, we're going to call enforcement and.
We appreciate the observation, because we were all here on that project, right? So
Right.
it indirectly reflects on us, whether it should or shouldn't, so we understand that. That should go to enforcement. You're right, there's two lanes here, Mr. Chairman. There's enforcement of prior approval,
Right.
not to muddy up the pending application
Right.
of a very small tenant transporting kids on buses. But yes, that should be reviewed, that should be considered as to whether or not they met that resolution compliance item or not. And typically, when you're back before a board on the property, that's when you're there. You're back on a shopping center site, well, that one down the block, you didn't fix it. Well, we're here now, so we're a captive audience, we get that. But I do appreciate you steering that, Mr. Chairman, that.
I do feel that it's part of my job here as the chair to make sure that we're not swayed one way or another because, well, he said he was going to move the chair over there and he didn't. Why should I give it to him now? Two separate testimonies, and I'm going to ask again. Let's just leave that somewhere else. We know the channels to take. We need to call our building department and let them know that we're not happy with what we see out there. So, with that being said, I have 2 or 3 questions, okay? So, I think you said, I think it was Building 33 is going to be used as your office space and things like that, correct? But you also said in your testimony you have some maintenance that's going to be done on the vehicles. Is there a maintenance shop within Building 33, or where does your maintenance and mechanic work get done?
That'll be inside the building. So again, we're putting 3 overhead doors in to allow for access in and out of the building.
Okay, so it's a full mechanic shop?
I'm not sure what your definition of a full mechanic shop is, and I don't want to get too far into the exact
Oil
operations.
change, brakes, it's short of changing an engine, mechanic shop.
Would probably defer to Durham Bus, who is represented
We
here
could bring
tonight,
up the
on more
tenant
detail on
operator,
that.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that might be going a little beyond Mr. Fruit's.
Okay.
Instead of maintenance, we should.
Okay, we'll talk about that there. Because I hear about oil separators, I hear about impervious coverage, and all of these things ring a bell. So we can talk about that later. I want to just see if there was one more thing for you. No, I'll reserve for later. Anyone else? Why don't, Mr. Calley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, can I be
Yes, sir.
excused for a few moments?
Excuse me?
Can I be excused for a few moments?
Absolutely. Would you like me to,
Take 5? Take a 5.
want to take a 5?
Yeah. Because if he misses testimony.
Yeah, yes, let me do this. Could we have a motion?
Motion to
A
take
5-minute break. Okay, motion made by Mr. Mazzio, second by Mr. DeLuca. All in favor? Aye. Mr. Grimaldi, all in favor? Aye. Mr. Calley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going out of sequence slightly, just to answer that one targeted question, Mr. Chairman, that you raised as to what maintenance we do here, I'd like to bring up, for that answer, a representative from the tenant side, from the bus company, who can explain to you in detail, Mr. Chairman, as to what maintenance does and does not include on the site real quick, and then we'll go to our traffic engineer.
Thank you very much.
Sir, could you raise your right hand, please? With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Aini Abdelkader, last name is Abdel-Kader.
A-D-D-E-L.
Abdel-Kader.
And hey, your affiliation with Durham School,
I'm the area general manager for Durham School Services.
you're fully familiar with their operations?
Yes, I am.
Existing and proposed here on site?
Yes, I am.
You heard the chairman's inquiry, you heard Mr. Fruit's answer. I thought maybe you could expand on that perhaps a little bit.
Absolutely,
What
absolutely.
does maintenance include here on this property?
So maintenance includes changing of tires, brakes, oil changes, transmissions, engines, no body work,
Nobody.
no body work.
Okay. And so, are you done? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay. So when you change that oil, I'm sure you catch it in a pan. Do you have a reservoir, like a 500-gallon tank?
Yes.
That it goes into, and then you have a service that comes and picks it up?
That's correct. yes.
Okay. And what happens if you have a spillage?
Maintenance has protocols to take care of that.
Okay.
I don't know the exact specifics of how it's,
Okay.
that's.
I would imagine it would be picked up with certain type of rags and then disposed of properly, but not going down the drain?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
They're following regulations and standards in the industry, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as maintenance comes under, of course, mechanics, but maintenance is also washing your vehicles, hosing them down, power washing. Will you be doing that inside the building as well?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
So maintenance also comes by way of washing your vehicles, cleanliness, power washing, things like that. Will you be power washing the vehicles inside your building?
Inside the building, we don't do any power washing of the vehicle, like maintenance doesn't do that. We
How
just-
do you wash your trucks? Your
Yeah.
buses, I'm sorry.
No, we have a vendor that would come and on site and.
So you have an outside vendor, like a subcontract that comes
Correct.
and washes your buses?
Yes, correct.
Would this be done inside the building?
That would be done inside the building, correct.
And so now, any of that debris that's on that truck, be it engine grease, oil, things like that, that would be going down on the ground and then into the drain,
That,
more or less, right?
yeah, I'm not too sure, but I know sometimes they have, like, the company would take their own, they'll take the.
So what actually happens is the trucks, the buses, the cars, whatever it is, gets power washed and/or washed. Whatever debris is on that car goes into the trough, the floor drain, which eventually goes down into the system, right? So that's why we were talking before about oil separators and different things like that, and that's where the necessity of that comes in. I just want to know if you're taking that precaution as well, because I have seen, or I have witnessed some companies coming in doing some power washing of their engines and things like that. And by virtue of that, that oil, that debris that goes into the drain, which makes it very, very difficult for our waterway. So that's why I'm asking, even the soap that's being used, I mean, car washes and things like that have a very strict criteria for what they're doing, and that's what was concerning me. So that's why I wasn't so opposed against the oil separator and things like that, So I just want to be sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Haney, you heard for the record, to the chairman's point, you heard the applicant, through Mr. Fruit's testimony, concede the condition of approval of this board acted in favor of the application to include oil separator, as I described, belt and suspenders, because it's over and above the requirement. You have no issue with that?
No,
That's
absolutely, no.
Yes, sir.
In regards to that, Chairman, so Mr. Abdel Kader, thank you. All the bus washing will be done inside, correct?
Correct.
None will be done outside.
No.
Thank you.
So it's an interesting point, right? So washing outside on pervious blacktop would then go into a different vessel.
If
So-
anything.
I'm sorry?
If anything.
If anything. It'll just sit there in the gravel before it, then it gets trapped in a liner. So
And wait for the 100-year flood, it winds up in.
Okay. So I guess what I'm asking you is, Mr. Kelly, would you have a problem with making sure that we put in part of the conditions and/or testimony that these vehicles are always washed inside?
If the tenant operator is fine with that, I have no issue with Mr. Chairman.
Maintenance and washing.
Maintenance and washing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm good.
And can Mr. Cueto make a point as to when vehicles are washed inside, that all of that runoff is now through the system and go through the oil separator, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Mr. Clement?
Yeah, just because you mentioned no body work at all.
Yes,
right?
correct.
How about painting?
No.
No painting, no
No
touch-up painting, nothing like that? Thank you.
All right. Because that does have, one second, Mr. Gabala, because that does come into something else if you're doing body work and painting, exhaust systems and all that, but you're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay,
We deal with it
I take
inside.
that as part of your testimony. Mr. Grimaldi?
As the engineer has brought up and the maintenance has brought up, per the UCC, when it's filed with our building department, they're going to have to meet the requirements of the waste.
Okay,
So it should be covered by our building department.
perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for bringing up this gentleman to help us out, and you know I avoided pronouncing your name.
That's absolutely fine.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but if you would like to bring up your next witness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. So our next witness, our second of three expert witnesses that will testify tonight, Mr. Chairman, our traffic engineer, Connor Hughes of the Hanover Traffic.
Could you raise your right hand, please? With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Certainly, my name is Connor Hughes, Hughes.
It's a C-O-N-N-O-R?
Correct, thank you for asking.
Thank you, okay.
Connor, your licensing, background, and credentials, please, for the benefit of the board and the record.
Yes, absolutely. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from NJIT in 2017. My professional engineering license in New Jersey is still in good standing. I've been a licensed engineer for about 3.5 years now, in which time I've prepared hundreds of traffic impact studies for various uses, performed expert testimony.
That's fine, Mr. Hume, thank you, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Connor, in connection with your preparation for this hearing and the circulation of parking assessment that you're all prepared to file in March of this year, you have become familiar with the property and the site plan you're on file with the board, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
You're familiar with the intended proposed operations on this property?
Yes,
And you've had the benefit to prepare an analysis and conclusions based upon your assessment that was prepared and submitted, is that right?
yes.
So if you wouldn't mind, Connor, taking the board through the benefit of that analysis and conclusions in connection with this proposal, please.
Absolutely. So we did prepare and submit a circulation and parking assessment dated March 28th, 2025. There were two main aspects that we looked at within that report, one being the trip generation and the other being the parking and parking demand versus the requirements, not only compared to the ordinance, but also the specific needs of the property. So that first aspect that we looked at is the trip generation. So typically to project that, we would look to ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, who have published rates based on research accounts that they've done at various different uses. But with this being a particularly unique type of use, we look to the applicant to provide their specific expertise and operational information as far as the number of employees, number of bus drivers, aides, all of those aspects that would contribute to the trip generation of this particular use. So with that consultation, you heard the testimony earlier about the number of drivers and aides, a total of 95 drivers and 30 aides, as well as the 11 on-site building staff. So that's a total of 136 employees, 115 of which would be on-site at any given time, based on the staggering of when they're coming in and out. And important to note is that with the drivers and aides, there's actually about 40% of them that utilize mass transit. There's a bus stop located just outside the entrance along North 8th, kind of like the southwest corner of that intersection with the Monroe, North 8th and the driveway. So there's a large percentage of the drivers and aides that take advantage of that mass transit availability. So the other 60% would use their personal car to drive to and from the site, with 6 of the drivers, again, keeping their bus off-site, so they do not drive directly to the site, and then 15 out of the 30 aides also are picked up along the routes, again, are not driving directly to the site. So out of those drivers and aides, there's only a percentage that are actually driving in their cars to the site. In the morning, there's 81 morning bus routes, 95 afternoon bus routes. So taking all that into consideration, and based on the breakdown of when drivers and aides and staff are coming to and from the site to pick up the buses, doing their routes, coming back, we isolated that highest hour as our peak hour. And both during the morning and afternoon activity, the arrival of drivers and staff, and then when they go out to the routes, come back to then leave, is about a 5-hour period. So it's about from 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 to 10 a.m., and then about 1 to 6 p.m. is when you would see this activity. So it's spread out over a rather long period of time. And again, just looking at the highest peak hour of that 5-hour activity, we broke that down into the drivers and the aides, the buses, and the building staff. And when we total that up, we find that in the morning peak hour, there's a total of 109 trips coming to the site, 52 of those being entering, 57 exiting. And then in the afternoon peak hour, 114 total trips, including 61 in, and 53 out.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry. I don't know if it's my hearing or I can't hear you too well. Did you, what was your peak hours?
I didn't specify the peak hours, so thank you for asking.
That's, I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
I was way ahead of you.
I'll try to speak a little louder and more into the microphone now.
Thank you.
So in the morning, that peak hour is 5:45 to 6:45.
There you go.
In the afternoon, it's 3:45 to 4:45. Again, that's the highest hour of volume coming in or out of the site.
Okay.
And that's based on the breakdown provided by the applicant based on their experience. So again, 109 trips in the morning, 114 in the afternoon. Now, there is an existing building on site. Granted, it has been vacant, we believe to be more than a year, so we do acknowledge that part of it. But the fact does remain that when we compare these projected trips based on the bus operations with the trips associated with that, what I'll call a former use of the building, which we identified as a general or light industrial type use. We utilized the ITE trip generation to establish trip generation for that use to draw our comparison. And when we do compare that prior use to the projected, we find that in the morning it's an increase of about 72 trips total, including in and out. And then in the afternoon, that's a total of 80 additional trips. And to put that into perspective, New Jersey DOT sets forth a threshold of 100 new peak hour trips that they consider to be a significant increase in traffic. And essentially what that means is they've established that that 100 trip threshold is where you would start to see noticeable differences in the traffic operations of the surrounding roadways and things of that nature. So based on that, that standard of 100 new peak hour trips, we would fall below that standard of being considered a significant increase when comparing to that former use. And the other part of it is, as I mentioned, these trips coming in or out aren't all focused in a single hour. They're very well spread out throughout that 5-hour period, so that does help to mitigate and limit any impacts to the direct intersection as well as surrounding intersections and roadways. And just based on the orientation of the intersection into the site and its location, it's likely to see mostly local traffic within the area, meaning residents coming to and from the surrounding area. Obviously, the traffic to and from the site itself and surrounding uses. There likely is some cut-through traffic from 14th to the boulevard that might be looking to circumvent some of that congestion at times. But in general, this intersection is likely not to see a significant amount of through traffic or things of that nature that would further contribute to those operations. And given the fact that with the peak hours being generally outside the typical, what I'll call rush hour or commuter hours, that also does help to limit those impacts during those typical peak times for the roadway. So we would anticipate that the operations at this driveway intersection operate acceptably. So that's the trip generation aspect of it. Getting into the parking, you heard the testimony earlier from our site engineer about the number of employees on site at any given time being 115. We have 117 spaces, so we do comply with that requirement in terms of the exact demand of this particular user, as well as the ordinance requirement of 115. And again, that doesn't account for the 40% of drivers and aides that would be utilizing mass transit. So in reality, that parking demand is significantly less than the number of employees that are on site. So in terms of the employee demand versus the vehicle demand, there's a stark difference when considering the demands of the actual vehicles. But even in a worst case scenario, for some reason, if all 115 of these employees came to the site at the same time, we still have sufficient parking to meet those demands. So that effectively concludes my direct testimony. I know there are some comments in the letter issued by Mr. Klein about the truck routes and the bus routes. So obviously, the bus routes will be enforced to utilize the established truck routes per the borough ordinance. There was actually a sign right on North 8th designating it as a truck route. but those buses will stick to the designated truck routes, mainly either Monroe to 14th Street to Route 22 is the primary route, and then the secondary route would be taking North 8th Street to the Boulevard and east or west from that point. So there's no issue with buses taking non-truck routes throughout the borough. They would be trained to stick to those truck routes to ensure that there are no issues with them utilizing local streets, neighborhoods, things like that. And I know that there was some mention in the letter as well as for the existing truck signage that's out there. We did take a quick look at that. There's a sign that I mentioned on North 8th right near the site that looks like it's in some disrepair. So we'll have to replace that one. And then if there's any other additional truck signage that would be considered by the board, we'd be happy to look at helping to reinforce those truck routes as well. So essentially, again, with the trip generation and the parking demand based on these specific operations, we do anticipate that the site will and can operate efficiently, safely for the buses, for the employees. So with that, if there's anything that I missed, I'm happy to touch on that. Or if there's any additional questions, I can certainly answer those.
Okay, are you complete?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Klein?
Sure. Lee Klein, the traffic engineer hired by the board for this application. I've been sworn in already. Yeah. So I guess in general, I've done reviews for other boards where 6 months after the operation is fully occupied and fully operational, you can do an assessment of, let's say, the intersection of North 8th and Monroe, just to see. Right now, North 8th stops, Monroe free flows. So if there was a problem with operations of that intersection, it could be potentially a multi-way stop. But we wouldn't know that until somebody did a study of that. So I don't know if it's something that the board would consider to make it a condition of approval to have the applicant go back out 6 months after it's fully operational, do a study of, let's say, 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. and 3:30 to 5:30, that kind of a thing, to see what the operations look like and to see if things are backing up. Then we may have to look at some kind of an operational change to that intersection. That's something I could offer. Also, in my comments, I talked about the truck routes and that there are some signs that are a little bit in disrepair. Mr. Hughes said that they would replace the ones, it's hard to tell which direction it's pointing, but it's at the corner of North 8th and Monroe, that they would replace that one, and I think there might be one more maybe along Monroe, out at 14th, because it really doesn't tell you which direction. If you look, I guess it's south on 14th, you see the no truck over 4-ton sign, but if you're on Monroe, just a reminder to let them know that they're allowed to go straight, or I think they can make a left, go north.
Yeah, they can go to 14th.
So that would be my two main signs that I would like to see installed. Other than that, I think all the other comments have really been addressed. Like I said, the only thing was that the existing building, if it's been closed for more than a couple of years, we're not going to get any credit for the amount of traffic that was generated by it. If that's generating it today, and then they're going to close it next month, they're going to open up this bus depot, then I'd say, yeah, you can get some credit, because right now it's generating, 37 trips in the morning, 36 in the evening, 34 in the evening, and now they're going to be adding 100, but taking away 34, 37, so you get a credit that way. But because it hasn't been operational, like I said, if we do some kind of a study 6 months out, once it's fully occupied, that would probably satisfy me. And again, the only thing I would see would be possibly a multi-way stop if there was a problem.
Okay. Mr. Klein, are you finished?
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Klein, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes. Made a. Did you say two Utes?
Let's just go with that.
I got a wadia to witness. Okay, so let's get back. So what he said was, do you support the testimony that he said about the 40% of people coming to work are going to be could use mass transit?
Well, when I was out there on May 12th, around 4 o'clock, I noticed that Durham buses are already on site, and they're already coming in and out. So I guess my question was going to be, do you know how many, you said there will be 81 morning bus routes and 95 afternoon bus routes.
Correct.
Do you know how many of them are actually operational now?
I don't have that exact number,
Maybe we could
but
get that number to see how
Yeah.
many, so then we would know if it's maybe they're halfway ramped up, maybe they're all the way ramped up, I'm not sure.
yeah, then that 40% is from their own.
So, yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess then the follow-up, my point was that they could probably tell us, of the 95 drivers, we know that 30 of them take the bus here, or carpool, or whatever it is, so they would know those actual numbers.
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish it.
As concerned as I am about fuel and droppings and oil and separators, I'm also concerned with traffic patterns. The traffic patterns here is because, what I'm seeing is that we have the school right up the block, we have 2 other businesses all making moves at the same time. Did either of you take into consideration what happens at that 6:45 hour? Because you're giving yourself an hour to move 60 some odd buses, which means robotically, everybody's gonna get to work on time. They're gonna pull out the bus, they're gonna park the car in that spot, they're gonna go out, they're not gonna have a cigarette, they're not gonna use the bathroom, they're just gonna get out on that road. The reality of that, does that really work like that?
So to my knowledge, yes, they do arrive, sporadically and things like that. So nothing works perfectly, right, as designed, that's the idea, but yes, of course, you're gonna have those types of instances.
Have you looked at the impact
but-
that's gonna have on the school pickup and drop-off at those timeframes?
Not specifically, but the buses would primarily be coming and going before or after those pick-up and drop-off periods to be at the schools for that period. So there's an offset there that helps to.
I don't know if you would know this question, maybe the other gentleman, but there is a dispatcher that puts these buses out, and the buses have radios in them
Yes.
for communication?
Yeah, to my knowledge, and they check in when they get there to know, what they're, usually they do the same route, is my understanding. But yes, there's an open communication.
So if they're not following a traffic pattern and we get a call from our police department saying, hey, what's going on over here? Durham buses, doing donuts on the boulevard, they could get radioed in and stop it immediately.
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
And just to confirm, I did confirm that they are at full operation, so 95, 81 routes in the morning, 95 routes in the afternoon.
Okay. Anybody?
You have a question? Okay.
Sorry.
So when you were looking at these, both traffic engineers, did you look at like the amount of trucks coming in and out of like the past occupants of that? Like FlexiVan had a pretty big trucking operation, like the number of trucks, number of employees. I mean, going back to Monsanto, when we were kids, had a ton of trucks coming back out of there. I mean, did anybody take that into account? Is there any difference between the amount of buses coming in and out every day and the amount of truck coming out of FlexiVan or Doka coming in there now? Because it seemed there had to be a significant amount, living in the area, a significant amount of trucks coming out of FlexiVan every day.
And just from my own knowledge, is that the existing buildings, that's something else on?
Well, I'm just talking about trucks on that roadway coming out from Monroe, going down to 2014th Street to 22.
Okay.
I mean, they're basically going to be on those truck routes, and I just wanted to see if there was any similarities between the number of trucks like FlexiVan was bringing out there every day versus the number of buses coming in
Yeah,
and
I mean,
out.
we didn't specifically look at that. That
Okay.
was part of the reason for doing that comparison to a degree, but we don't
Okay,
have those specific
thank you.
numbers.
Okay.
What might help that question, it's a very good question, is as a traffic engineer in general, you follow a lot of studies and trip generation data. A user such as a school bus service provider is so peculiar and so niche. When you compare it to a typical truck carrier, are the patterns typically different that you see as a traffic engineer in general? As far
Certainly.
as the timing of impact and overall impact?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I guess I have a question. So, of the 81 and 95 routes, do we know how many of them are within Union County? How many of them may be outside of Union County? That would say that I've got to get here by 5:30 so I can get to my school
Yeah, no, we
area
do
that's,
have a
an
list of all
hour,
their-
45 minutes away.
Yeah, we do have a list of all their,
So the fact that they start here, but yet some of them go 45 minutes away, some of them go 20 minutes away.
right. Yeah,
That
not-
helps to spread it out as well.
Yeah, not all of them are localized. There's a lot of districts that they serve outside of Kenilworth and just general surrounding area within the state. So, yeah, there are obviously varying travel times that are.
Do you know if any of the routes are for Kenilworth? Board of Ed?
No, no.
No, we don't use them, no.
Yeah.
Question.
Anything else, Mr. Klein?
Question for Mr. Klein. You were recommending possibly an operation assessment for post-approval, post-occupancy. So if that assessment's done, were you proposing, then what happens? Say it all of a sudden dips below standards, below what's being testified to, what can be done at that point?
Like I said, it could potentially become a multi-way stop at that intersection.
So
the
you
buses-
control the intersections?
Correct, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I guess they probably should think about doing it now before school
Yeah,
is let out, rather than wait until September.
Because I got caught up once, and I think it was maybe the second shift where, I was coming down 8th Street, and a lot of the buses were coming out all at once, and I was stuck there for a while.
Sure.
I actually that hadn't happened to me before.
Right.
So,
Right, so that would help alternate the traffic, so buses coming out, they're gonna make the right turn.
yeah, because a
They
regular
stop,
driver,
you go. They-
you see
they
yellow
go,
buses,
you-
all these buses, you're stopped, you're waiting.
Yeah, caravan of the bus, just.
Exactly.
And the applicant is perfectly amenable to a look back, as Mr. Klein suggested. I think it's a good point, it's a good suggestion. We're certainly amenable to that as a condition be imposed upon any board action to approve. Just to give you a sense, and Mr. Conley can confirm for testimony, since mine is merely a proffer, it is varied communities that are serviced. It's Cranford, Scotch Plains, Westfield, Elizabeth, Watchung, Long Hill, Bridgewater, Livingston, Newark, Rahway, a few other communities. So it is
Diverse,
yes.
Geographic diverse.
Well said.
Mr. Scuderi?
So, to the point of doing a traffic study 6 months from now, how long have you guys been operating at full?
Right, it sounds like they're
So
full,
it
we
sounds
should
like
do
all
it
of our
now.
plans were done, our traffic studies were done, and the full operation ready.
Right, do it next week, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everything that was observed in the field already was done under the purview of effectively full operations in the field today, with no real net change come tomorrow.
So then I just have an observation, I have a comment from later on, but an observation that, so I go to work anywhere between 6:15 and 20 to 7. I do notice a big difference if I leave my house, which is along that route along Boulevard, and I travel up the mountainside. I'm always stuck behind the buses. If I leave at 6:15, it's a lot worse than it is at 6:45. So I'm thinking like when school hours are, probably the majority of the buses are gone. That half an hour does make a big difference.
What yes, sir.
I can wait.
No. By all
Should the
means.
board wish to discuss a post-assessment, you could do it as a condition of your approval. Well, you can do it as a condition of approval, and it's up to the board about your timing. As Mr. Klein has pointed out, do it next week, quote unquote. Time is getting very short to do a proper assessment. Once you hit perhaps the second week of June, first week of June, depending on the school district, you got schools with half days, schools with no days, schools that are doing field trips to get the kids out of the building. So the schedule's a bit skewed. So as Mr. Klein said, if you want to do one, got to do one very quickly, or perhaps wait until October, November, and watch the school holidays and make sure it's a week with no holidays whatsoever. As we all know, that first week of November, school families in New Jersey head to Disney World because the teachers' convention. So you don't want a skewed week. You want a full school week for discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Gorgonli.
If I heard this correctly, they've done the traffic study,
Yeah.
Yes.
and they've done it.
At the highest impact.
They've testified to the fact that they've been running at full capacity. So they've done a traffic study at full capacity. So we're post, I think the conversation of post-approval is thinking that they had to ramp up to 100% capacity. They've done the study at 100% capacity.
Is that correct?
No,
Just say that?
that's not exactly, they didn't do a traffic impact study. A traffic impact study is when they do a traffic count, let's say at the intersection of Monroe and 8th.
Right.
Before the development arrives. They take credit for some development that's gonna go when they bring the buses in, then they do the math to add the bus trips in, then they reanalyze it. In this case, I want them to do the post fully occupied site, which is today, or tomorrow, or next week, before schools are out. So to do a real traffic study would be to go out there at 5:30 till 7 o'clock, do some counts. Then, because they don't have to do the math of adding in the buses or taking away the old uses of the site, they just do the analysis. And then, like you had said, they may see that all the buses are making the right turns and it's queuing up on North 8th Street because nobody can get through. So then in that case, maybe we look at a multi-way stop. Does that make sense?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, who was there? Who spoke? Mr. Grimaldi? Is that you? Okay.
The thing is, so maybe I'm terming it, making the term is incorrect, but they did you do a traffic study?
We did an abbreviated study without counts and analysis. So what Mr. Klein is asking for is to provide the analysis and the level of service calculations for the driveway. That's really the aspect that we're being asked to examine.
Mr. Scudieri?
So let's assume we approve it and we do the study 6 months. Our only real recourse is to make that a 4-way stop or a 3-way stop.
Correct.
So from that intersection to their gate is 70 feet, 80 feet. So maybe we just, as a condition, have them put in a speed bump at the exit to their gate.
There is one now.
Right at the end? I thought it was further, it's a lot further in.
Yeah, it's in like, so you know the bar, so it's right at the edge of where the bar's property is, so they still have another 100 feet to go, maybe a little more.
Because if it was right at the edge of their property where we required their buses to stop.
I don't know
that
exactly
would-
where the property is.
That would at least put because I'm pretty familiar with it, and I think the stop, it's probably 30 feet into your property. Right?
Something like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
30, 40 feet. So if that was right on the edge of the property, that would make the buses stop and maybe like Mr. Mez was saying, he got stuck there for a long period of time, that would at least put some gap in between them. We could do the same thing instead of requiring a study and going through this, all we're gonna do that is put a stop sign there anyway. And we know how difficult it is to get the police department or state or DOT, whatever hoops they gotta jump through to change the stop sign. And
So, was that you, Mr. DeLuca?
Our police department's gonna do it.
Local road, we can add it, I would do forward now.
So, that also, and now I'm gonna tread some water here. With a 4-way stop there, that impacts the course of business, because that, every fourth car, then one moves, every fourth car, then one moves. So his start time at 5:45, you'll be blowing that out of the water. Am I incorrect there?
Assuming there's other cars at 5:45.
Right.
Assuming that there's other cars.
Right, they come, count to 3 technically, and then make their turn and go straight.
What was your recommendation, Mr. DeLuca?
I personally, I think we should just add the signs now instead of trying to go through a reevaluation. Why wait? We've already gotten sued about 6 blocks down for $60 million, if everybody remembers Waldorf. It's not going to change. It's only going to get more congested. I think we get the residents used to stopping there, and that'll create enough time. I realize there might be some impedance as far as time for buses to leave, but it's not going to be significant as they are staggered, you said. And even if you do trip generation on it, I don't see that much of a change with adding stop sign, because the bus itself, because of the site distance, has to stop anyway.
Right.
Therefore, your change is,
Right.
negligible. So I would say, add those stop signs now, get the residents used to it. Start of the school year, they'll already be there, and most of the residents that traverse that way will already know it's there.
Who adds those stop signs?
What's that?
Who adds the stop signs?
Well, it's not a state roadway, it's the town, it's a municipal roadway, municipal will pay for 50 signs.
But we really need to have a study to show that a multi-way stop.
I still think something should go to verify it, but I don't think we should wait 6 months. We should at least say, well, let's look at it now.
Well, that's what I'm saying to them, they should do it now, before schools lay out for half days, this week, next week, whenever they get out there.
Or you're gonna go and do in the month of July, and you're gonna say, wow, there's nobody on these
No,
roads.
no, I'm asking them to do it this week or next week, to try to get this in
Well,
next
it's
week.
the second, third week of June, so.
So, Mr. Klein, by doing the study, that'll tell you whether a four-way stop would be
Warranted.
warranted or
Or
not.
a three-way, or,
Okay.
And if there's any, I mean, I don't know if you looked at sight distance at the intersection, things like that, if that needs to, you know,
Yeah,
trim
that's
some
also
trees back,
something we look at.
things like that, yeah. But again, that's local jurisdiction.
I mean, it's only 7.5, 10
We need
degrees.
an ordinance to do that?
Could, yeah, do,
Yeah, I saw the trucks made the turn, I didn't see them pop
Oh,
up on
but
the
there's
curb.
just like this,
Yeah.
they have to come all the way out to kind of peek across to see
Right.
what's going on, so.
So basically, other than the study, then it's out of our hands, it's in between the police department and mayor and council, I think.
well, Lou brings up a good point. Does that have to be by way of ordinance?
Do you need an ordinance to put the sign there?
So we need an ordinance.
Yeah, so then it's out of our hands once we do the study, then it's between the police department and, you know, the mayor and council. Obviously, they're gonna confer with the police department.
I think it's just saying.
So does it require a
It's just saying
county
put the signs in now.
No, it does not.
So can I ask a question off the cuff, right? I can't wear the chairman hat now. Are we within our rights to ask Mr. Cali if his client would adhere to a four-way stop now, avoid the study? It can only enhance or better the intersection.
We have no issue with that at all. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're glad to petition the governing body for that. As Mr. Rego will advise you as well, it really can't be a condition of approval because it requires third-party action, but we are certainly amenable to making that petition to the governing body. I will copy the board staff on it, Mr. Rego's office as well, Mr. Klein, all your consultants, with that request saying it came out of the Board of Adjustment relative to respectful approval after tonight. For a four-way stop sign, I will supplement with, augment it with anything from dynamic traffic that we need to, and make that request. We can see where it lands with the governing body, and I'm sure that folks from the board or staff can certainly get squeaky with the governing body to the extent needed to explain why you folks think it's a good idea as well on your side of the table.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Kelly's saying is to make a condition that another party has to approve something for what we do to be implemented. He's saying that the governing body has to be petitioned. If the governing body says, well, we don't want a four-way stop sign here, and we say we do, then they're stuck because they can't comply with that condition.
So
what
that
he's
goes
saying is
back
that
to-
they're going to petition the governing body, and if the governing body says, yes, let's go ahead and do an ordinance, then we're golden. But
Mr. O'Brien?
Perhaps the board may wish to, should the board want to make this a condition of resolution. I'm sorry, I did have surgery recently, and I'm still getting over it.
It's the anesthesia.
I thought it was the vodka. Should the board wish to make this a condition of the resolution, our able and gifted attorney can phrase it in such a way that this board retains jurisdiction of it up to the assessment or a letter prepared by Mr. Klein or Mr. Callie's applicant is submitted to the board, a plan is devised, and that's the end of our jurisdiction, and this board will cooperate with the applicant in submitting a suggestion to the Borough Council and Mayor via communication from our talented secretary and chair, and then it's in the borough's jurisdiction. We can't ask them to do anything more than what's beyond, what's up to us. We should make it clear what's our responsibility and what's theirs.
I just want to go back to Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, you were pretty, not adamant, but you were really talking about doing the study and this and that. Do you think it's okay at this point that we forego the study, move forward with everything that Kevin just said, or are we putting the cart before the horse?
You need something in your file, in the township file, to support the ordinance that makes it a multi-way stop. So whether it's Mr. Hughes or myself, somebody has to go out, do the traffic counts, run through the warrants, see if it's even warranted. And again, if we find out that it's 15 minutes at 5:45 to 6 a.m. and 4 people are affected by that, probably wouldn't warrant a multi-way stop. If there's crash history there or something, and we have to dig that up to see if there is any issue there, and we can fix that with a multi-way stop, that would be another reason.
So the condition, Mr. Chairman, maybe could be the applicant will work with the board professionals to make a submission to the governing body to petition for the development of a four-way stop sign here and because. And that because will be either backed up by the supplemental data or it won't.
Right, that's what I'm saying, you wouldn't be petitioning for a multi-way stop, you'd just be studying the intersection, and guess what? It's fine, except unfortunately for 15 minutes in the morning, it's really bad.
Or if this board approves this application, the condition, rather than be, the applicant has to do it, we could suggest to the governing body that we are recommending that the governing body consider approving it, working with the applicant to put a multi-stop sign at what, 8th and Monroe?
I believe all we can require the applicant to do is to study the intersection.
Yes.
And if I ask him to study a multi-way stop, and he does all that, and I look at his data, and look at his report, and he concludes that it's not warranted, I can either go ahead and do my own counts if you want me to, or I can just say, yeah, guess what? Doesn't warrant a multi-way stop, everything's the way it is.
Mr.
I
Ladati?
can't ask them to get a four-way stop.
Well, I think Mr. Cali said it perfectly, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but you basically said you're gonna work with the town council and us, and you're gonna supply the data or the evidence for the four-way stop, correct?
Yeah.
Bottom line, simple, easy, right?
So a condition would be
They've got to
that,
report back to this board.
Okay, that's,
Because we retain jurisdiction. And a little background, that there are rules about this. There's a thing called a Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which the borough adheres to. And that is a book that says how and why we can put up signage.
Okay.
And what Mr. Klein is alluding to is that somebody has got to put a piece of paper in the board and the police department's file saying this improvement is considered in traffic signage and this is why. So perhaps instead of us saying, give us a three-way, give us a four-way, the intersection is studied to look for improvement. Based upon, thank you, potential improvement based upon the volume of traffic that is now being generated.
Well, I guess we could say it 4 different ways, but you just said it nice. The nomenclature could come however we want to do it. I think Mr. Klein already said that he would look at that and work with the board, work with our professionals, correct?
We will, and the one thing I would not like to get
can
hung up
always
is,
tweak the language.
this is a resolution compliance item. The timing of it goes beyond the applicant now. It relies upon peer review, board consultants, and then potentially a submission to the governing body. So perhaps, Mr. Rego, we can wordsmith this, so this will not be the last item that holds up the applicant from moving forward, because they're gonna be required to do it either way.
I understand what you're saying. We can't put ultimate approval in someone else's hands of our application.
We have
So-
to retain jurisdiction to the board. They submit to the board, our consultant looks at it, and then we do what we wish to do, and that, all they have to do is submit.
Right.
And then it's
They
up to
comply with
us
whatever we need.
to go on to the borough and to suggest they go
That's
on to the
fine.
borough.
Yeah, we won't
If the
hold it.
submission satisfies resolution compliance from the applicant's side,
Correct.
I think that makes sense then.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any questions for this witness? No? Okay. Yeah, yes, sir.
Sure. A question about the assumed traffic volumes.
Sure.
A lot of assumptions were made about transit usage. Were any of those based on observation or discussion with the drivers and staff?
The information came from the direct experience of the operators, so they have the knowledge of that breakdown.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Mr. Cali?
One more, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I don't know if it's gonna get much more exciting after traffic testimony.
I'm all warm and fuzzy now.
Our project planner, our final witness, Mr. Chairman, the members of the board, Paul Rickey.
If I may, Mr. Cali, I'm sorry, you had indicated earlier that a subsequent witness would be talking about the security access to the site, and I wasn't sure if that was your traffic person or your operational person. Do you want to do that before Mr. Ricky comes out?
I don't think I said that, perhaps Mr. Frew did, but...
Okay, somebody said somewhere.
Well, Mr. Frew would be the best one to speak to overall site security, which is fencing.
The question was, how do the buses and bus operation staff
This specific, not site.
access this site? And is there a card, gate?
We'll bring Mr. Haynes, we'll bring Mr. Adel Cater back up. Haynes,
Thank you
come
so
back up
much.
and answer that brief question
Figure we get that out of the way
for Mr.
before
O'Brien.
we...
You're still under oath, sir.
Certainly.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, that's how they would access the site. So basically, they'd come on site, they'd come into the building, they'll see a dispatcher. Dispatcher makes sure that the driver is fit for duty, then would hand off the key to the driver for that particular bus that they're using, and then they'd be on their way.
In order to get in and out of the site, is there a key fob, is there a gate, is there an arm bar, is it a secured site, is it fortified, how is it? No, nothing. Somebody could just walk in, go to the office, get the key.
Right now, yeah, we don't keep any keys in the buses. We keep it in a secured building, and they'll come into that building, the drivers, or, and because they have to see a dispatcher. Dispatcher is the one that controls the keys. Nobody can take the key of a bus unless the dispatcher gives it to them.
Was that your question?
No, I think just going into the site,
Getting on-
like
Okay.
accessing the
Right.
first entrance into the site, is there any restrictions, any guards
Kids
like
only
monitoring,
kick a ball
do they
around.
buzz in or anything?
No,
Just to
currently
enter?
not.
All right, Mr. Frew, then maybe you can help me out. I understood that there were gates and fencing on site, so they do not apply to the bus operations?
I just don't know the timing of the gate controls. It's possible that the gates are open in the morning, the first arriver.
There is man security that you interface with at the base of the property when you come into the site. Mr. Frew's point, we don't know if that person is there at 5 a.m. or not.
Do you know the usual, how long, what time he's usually there for?
Every time I've been at the site, morning and afternoon, there's been security at the gate that I've had to speak to, advise who I am, perhaps show them some credentials, and then get access to the property. So normal business hours, there is a manned security guard at the front entrance. There's also roaming security on the property as well, because it's been supplemented with DOCA's own security that they have on site.
Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry, are you talking about that guard shack that's there?
There's that, and then on the site, there's a roaming security guard. Our planner was on site today for 20 minutes. He dealt with 2 security guards during his site inspection.
Okay.
Inquired who he was, why he was there, and what he was doing.
So there's no lockdown of the site? In other words, there's not a rolling gate, there's nothing, I use the word fortified, there's nothing to fortify the site?
There's a bar, I'm not sure the extent of the security at night, whether or not it's a full anti-scale gate that closes or not. You know what's the front entrance room? We'll take a look from the site
Well,
plan.
I have a question
But
also.
there's no change to whatever that condition is today, there's no change based
Okay.
on this operation.
Well, there are other tenants in the site, right, that have to get in there, because I remember the previous applicant was, or had their trucks getting in there at, men getting in there at 5 o'clock, or women getting in there at 5 o'clock. So that, those gates are probably open at 5 a.m., right? I don't think there's a, not sure if there's a guard there or not at that
I
time.
would guess not at that hour.
I guess not, but the thing is, with the influx of so many people, cars and
Understandable.
employees, you know, what's going on there, you know,
Yeah.
it could be,
Can we get the facts?
I'm sorry?
Can we get the facts?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, at that hour in the morning, anything can happen. Now, I know there's other businesses working out of that same location. I don't think it was ever brought up before. Chris, where are you going with this? What did you want to say? I don't know who asked the question, one of you.
Both of them.
Okay, so where are you going with this? Are you looking for a gate? Are you looking for a key fob? Are you looking, or am I wasting my time here?
I think it's just clarification of what,
You're clarifying that there's no gate and the security guard may not be there at 5:45.
And we just want to reconcile the testimony, because correct me, I believe the testimony said that the site was secure.
That was the testimony. It was a secured site.
It was a secured site.
Secured site. So if you don't have a fence or...
No security.
Well,
There's
it's
no-
bounded by water on several fronts, fencing on others, there's security guards during the day, and I'm not certain what the issue is, because, and I think you kind of alluded to it, Mr. Chairman, is there is no world where the applicant's interest for forget the tenant applicant, the owner of the property, there's no world where their interests are not fully aligned with ensuring safe access on that property for anybody that has a right to go on that property, avoiding trespass where possible, and avoiding any nefarious activity where possible. So the applicant's interests are wholly aligned with the borough. The point is, if there were any issues on the site, which there have not been, the applicant would take measures. They could put an anti-scaling gate up. They could come and petition a town for some type of anti-scaling measure. I know most municipalities don't allow it, but they are interested in protecting this very valuable 43-acre investment that they own in the borough, and they're going to promise their tenants if they start not protecting things. I'm not talking about a catalytic converter getting stolen. I'm talking about activity on the property that could be dangerous to the people accessing it. They've got a world of hurt as ownership vis-a-vis their tenants if this property is not safe and secure. So, and then here the net change is zero with the bus operator.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate Mr. Colley's comments. We all agree, everybody wants this place to be secure. Can we find out what the facts are?
We can find out what the facts are. I will find out the hours of operation of the staff personnel that are charged with security on the property.
Is there a gate? Is
what,
there an access? Are there guards?
I was going to finish.
Sure,
and what measures are being undertaken to prevent physical access by way of a barrier onto that property?
Wonderful. Can you do that by the end of the evening, or you're?
I don't think so, no, and it's not part of our application. I will find out, I will
Well,
submit
it
it to
is
the
part of our
borough.
application, because security of the site is a borough concern.
It is,
Okay.
it is,
Here's-
respectfully, Mr. Chairman, it is not, I cannot entertain that as part of our application. If the board would like us to see some measure, implement something, we're glad to do it. Again, much like the coverage issue, it's got nothing to do with the relief that's here before this board.
Okay.
Mr. Colley, I agree that it's not part of your application, but this board has to consider safety and security of the borough as part of its decision-making process.
Cite to an issue that safety and security is compromised by way of this presentation, and we will provide you with a responsive answer.
Very good.
We can't pick out of the wind at things we think are issues. There has been no issue raised except the blind subjective comment that safety and security needs to be discussed. The why has not been explored. I will provide the how, but I can't understand the why, and Mr. Prime, respectfully, you made no connection to the why.
Mr. Colley, again respectfully, the applicant has failed to show us how security is done on site.
I disagree that the applicants failed to do anything relative to an objective reviewable item on this application.
May I interject?
I leave it to the board, Chairman.
Okay,
Please, Mr.
may
Chairman.
I interject? First, I'd like to hear from Mr. Grimaldi, and then I'll address all that.
I was thinking about that statement of security previously, if there was a gate right by Bucky's. To my knowledge, I didn't remember. I walk my dogs in this area. Just looking at Google Streets, there isn't a gate at Bucky's. But if you look in, then there's a gate to the left, a gate to the right side of the main building, a gate to the left side of the main building. So there's many gates. But there is not one that
Direct access.
that you would perceive at the end of Monroe, which is actually good, because then it doesn't have the buses stacking out beyond. They're able to come in, make a right and a left before they get to that first gate. However, that gate is secure, well, I don't know if we need to know that right now, but that's up to you.
Okay.
But that's, just looking at Google right now, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Grimaldi. Mr. Cali, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Mr.
Mr. Cali, the other gentleman, and I don't want to be disrespectful, I can't remember his name,
Of
I'm
course.
sorry, I should have written it
The
down.
tenant operator?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So would he know if there is a security guard there early in the morning, and/or would that be the owner of the property?
Be the owner of the property.
Owner of the
Yeah,
property.
and we could try to find that out. I'm not certain we get that in the next 60 minutes, Mr. Chairman. That's the only reason I push back on that request,
Okay.
but that's an easy answer to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you're already conducting business, so you must be there at 5:45 in the morning. You see anybody in the shack?
I know at 6 a.m. there is.
Okay, so you're 15 minutes off. So maybe we could work through this, for security purposes, and maybe to answer the why, we would like to see the place more secure. You have these buses, we got kids in the area, all this kind of stuff. You could get us that answer. We would love to see it. Maybe we could talk to somebody, get somebody in there in the time of operation. But we also had the other tenant that was in there. And I'm not sure if, you know, if there was a security guard there at 5:45 or 5 o'clock in the morning to start his day. But we certainly don't want a problem, but I think we could get past this one at this point. We can move forward. Did you have something else, Kevin? You referenced the safety side of this with him, and he gave you whatever answer he could give you, and...
Board has the answer. It's up to the board whether this is a concern of yours.
Okay.
You're on a use variance, so safety and security are part of, I think, as a mere planner, part of your overall review of the site.
So then let me ask you this question. Right now, this application is for Durham Bus, but going into that very same property, isn't there 3 or 4 other businesses going in there?
Yes, sir.
So those businesses are a direct result of what Durham would have to do?
Yes, similar in that they've been here for site plan application.
Right.
And Durham is here for their site plan application as well as for a use variance.
Okay, but we
The only
didn't ask,
question is how-
we didn't ask for it from the other applicants?
We did, because gates and fencing are part of the DOCA.
Incorrect. The applicant asked for the fencing. Specifically, there was actually board professional staff pushback because they were worried about fire circulation. The fencing for DOCA was an applicant-requested implementation, not a board-requested implementation.
I didn't say who it came from, and it doesn't matter where it came from. But the approved site plan shows fencing and gates.
Okay.
So my question is just.
So, come on. The site is bounded by fencing on nearly every side. It's a 43-acre site, or it's inaccessible because of waterway or topography. There is a swing gate at the entrance. The tenant representative has confirmed that by 6 a.m., there's already a manned guard out there on the property. The representative from the owner believes it is at least a 12-hour shift, which would cover just about the entirety of the school operations, the school bus operations, which is one of several tenants here on this property. We've had no issues. We've had no police calls. We've had no unresponsiveness with PD. There are no site issues. We're interested in keeping it safe moving forward. I don't think the buses are they're not an attractive nuisance. They're buried on this 43-acre site in the middle. Anybody coming onto the property is trespassing. We would deal with it accordingly. There are no new security measures being proposed. If the board is inclined to say, perhaps do this, we're all ears, Mr. Chairman. Just like the oil-water separator, just like the look-back period as needed for the four-way stop sign, the applicant's all ears.
Okay.
But it's got to be something objective and something there, as opposed to just
And perhaps when we hear what the facts of the situation are, you can consider.
I just provided that. We're fenced on all sides, the swing gate in front, you got to guard out there for 12 hours.
I'm good enough here. I understand you want the facts. I heard what his facts were. We're going to move forward. Did you have something to say, Mr. Feud?
I just want to reiterate my testimony, because I think it went a little bit sideways. The site is fenced, there's a swing gate at the entrance. What I testified to was I was not sure of the operational characteristics of that gate, whether or not that was open every time someone comes in, or if it's open during the day with a security guard. I think we've heard how that operates now. I testified in answer to the question, and we're confirming with the survey, we can bring it up as an exhibit if the planner requests. The site is fenced, there's a gate at the entrance. It's about 200 feet in from the intersection of 8th. The only thing that I suggested that I needed to clarify was whether or not that gate opened with every entrance, whether it was left open with the security guard.
Okay, so that's another thing. So there's a gate there. So if somebody decided to close the gate, you could close the property, if they decided to.
I just don't know operationally whether that happens, but there's a gate there. The site is fenced. I think that answers.
I don't want to sound rude, but I don't care if it happens. There's a gate there. If it happens, there's a gate there and somebody didn't close the gate, I mean, I got it.
Yeah,
I think I got
We
it.
appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay,
We
so,
don't know if the gate.
I'm sorry?
So apparently the gate is manned 12 hours. I think that's fine. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of the minimum, is a 12-hour shift.
Minimum, okay. And beyond that, it could be open, it could be closed.
Correct.
Thank you.
okay. Mr. Kelly, Mr. O'Brien asked for that, but you had your next witness. I believe it was the project planner.
I think you went home, Mr. Chairman.
Did you see that dust? That was me following him. Come on up. Did you go to Dunkin' Donuts and bring this coffee?
Final witness, Mr. Chairman and members, our project planner, Paul Ricky.
Okay.
Paul, if you could raise your right hand. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
For the record, Paul Ricky, R-I-C-C-I.
Paul, is your, I know you as a licensed land use planner. Is your license currently in effect?
It is. I'll give you a quick background. I have testified here before.
I was going to say the board.
I'll be quick. I have a master's degree in city and regional planning from Rutgers University, which I received in 1997. I've been licensed since the year 2000.
Mr. Ricky's been here a number of times. I've worked with him in numerous capacities, provided his license is current.
Good enough for me, Mr.
I represent 6 towns, and
That's what I wanted
I've been
to-
qualified.
You're a municipal representative as well.
I've been qualified in over 250 towns throughout the state.
Good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just jump into it, Mr. Collins?
Please.
Okay. As part of my preparation for this application, I reviewed your 2011 master plan. I reviewed pertinent sections of the zoning ordinance. I was on several calls with the team. I reviewed the professional reports. I visited the site. I visited it again tonight, this evening, which I was indeed approached, Mr. Calloway, by 2 security guards while on the property for 20 minutes. What else did I do? I'm getting late in the evening. I prepared my planning testimony. I looked at aerial photography of the property from 1931 to 2022. I did read the Phase 1, or portions of the Phase 1 report that told me about the use history of the property and whence development first began on this property, which according to that report is as far back as 1910. We are in your industrial district. The site is a heavily oversized site for the district, requires 20,000 square feet, where we're at 43.4 acres, so we're well over 80 times larger than a minimum lot size. I won't go through the surrounding land uses. That was testified by Mr. Frood. In terms of how the site stands today compared to the requirements of your zoning ordinance, as a planner, I would characterize the site as underutilized today. It permits a maximum building coverage of 50%. The site is currently at 8.6%, a floor area ratio of 125%. The site's at 9.1%, an impervious coverage of 80%. The site is currently at 64.3%, and a minimum open space ratio of 20% is required, where the site is at 35.7%. I would consider the site what I would consider an inclusive district. It provides a full range of land uses. I'll touch upon some of them. The list is fairly exhaustive. I believe there's 31 specifically identified uses for the district. Activities of industrial nature and associated office and clerical activities, public utility and public service activities of industrial character, public garages, automotive repair shops, and new motor vehicle sales and used motor vehicle sales, storage warehouses, lumber and building material sales and storage, and contractor storage yards, processing, assembly, finishing, packaging, and storing of goods and materials, packaging and bottle establishment. I guess that recognizes the former use of the property years ago, the bottling plant, metalworking and welding activities, household appliance repairs, research laboratories, animal hospitals and kennels, automobile service stations, in which motor fuel and oil are dispensed, telecommunications towers. I did visit the site 2 years ago associated with a denial at Cranford's Community College, that this was a site that was identified as a potential alternative site. Then Union County College was ultimately ruled too far away, but I did visit the property back then. And it goes on, restaurants and eating establishments and such. accessory uses anticipates outdoor storage that is screened. We are seeking the D1 use variance to permit bus parking and also to permit outdoor storage that totals 19.7% of the site, where up to 10% is permitted. You heard the testimony by Mr. Frood that clarified that 19.5% exists today. Here the applicant is looking for a 0.2% increase onto the site. And what I'll talk about in my testimony, that where the bus storage is located, it's a minimum of 875 feet from the front property line facing North 8th Street. So part of my testimony in that regard is that this change is largely, in my opinion, somewhat de minimis in a large site that is internally located, that no one will be able to discern that difference from the eye at that distance that's obscured by vegetation on the property line nonetheless. I think of interest that we haven't heard this evening that bus storage is an inherently beneficial use. And as Mr. Rago and Mr. O'Brien are aware, inherently, probably your engineer as well, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Inherently beneficial uses are determined by statute and by case law. And there's a specific case, the Scholastic Bus Co. Zoning Board case, that found that a facility for storing and maintaining school buses is inherently beneficial insofar as it is necessarily accessory to the school buildings themselves. They went on to say this was the case even when the proposed facility was in an industrial zone and not in the immediate vicinity of any school building. So those standards, I believe, characterize this property where that case was held. What's different about this use variance application, when the use is determined to be inherently beneficial, it automatically meets the positive criteria under the law. I believe that the site would also meet the particular well suitability standard because an inherently beneficial use arguably is appropriate in a residential district, by way of example. That's not the case here. Here we're in an industrial inclusive zone, but I mentioned the land uses on a heavily oversized property where the activity is being proposed internally to the site, which naturally helps to buffer that use from surrounding land uses as well. Inherently beneficial uses are a very narrow band of uses that rise to a level that promote the public interest by definition. When that occurs, when you meet the positive criteria, we still have to meet the negative criteria, but we do that through a four-part balancing test. And that balancing test, and I'll go through that in a minute, asks 4 questions. And it's not, that balancing test asks the board to balance and weigh the positives of an application versus the negatives. And the positives outweigh the negatives. A board should vote in the affirmative of an application. Also, we are not required to meet the enhanced burden of proof, commonly referred as the Medici standard, where you can reconcile this use from the emission from your municipal master plan and zoning ordinance as well. I'm going to go back to the particular suitability in a moment. Regarding the balancing test, the first test is to identify the public interest. I like how I wrote this in my outline, so I'm going to read that. Allowing bus parking enables schools in the region to fulfill the public obligation to transport school children. And that is largely the public interest that this board is weighing here. The second part of the test asks us to identify negative impacts associated with the application. And those usually arise, we see through the professional reports, testimony that's been elicited. In my review of the site, first of all, visibility of those buses, they're there today. I mean, there's limited to no visibility because of the screen and their distance from property lines. The main variance consideration is the small increase in the amount of the site that is being used for outdoor storage. And we just discussed the concern about traffic and the need for the 4- or 3-way stop. I believe in this regard, the applicant is fully willing to comply with the board's condition, whatever that may or may not be in this regard. And then if there's any other standards that I'm missing, the board will bring up as part of this review. The third part of the test asks the board to evaluate whether reasonable conditions can be applied. And the goal under the SICA case is for a board to work with an applicant, because the use is inherently beneficial, to attempt to mitigate any potential negative impacts. In this regard, the applicant has agreed. I mean, I'm not sure the exact specifics. It's a little bit back and forth going on. And I also have to talk about the safety concerns raised about Mr. O'Brien. We believe that we can demonstrate, if it has to be after the fact of the night, but we have a fully fenced site. We have a site that has security on it as well. And, you know, as a planner that works in a town it's very industrialized, I think it's clear that this is an applicant that, I think the goals align here. This is an applicant that is going to secure and make sure this site is secure. However that makes it into the record, if this board votes affirmatively on this application, that's something that we feel confident about moving forward. So in the balancing test, the board has to weigh the positives of an application versus the detriments. And largely here, when we look at the land uses that are permitted in the district, and the fact that outdoor storage is permitted, and the applicant is looking for a very modest increase, I believe the benefits clearly outweigh the detriments. When we look at the site from a particular suitability standpoint, the site's also particularly well suited as well for a number of reasons. Like I said, the level of intensity of other land uses are significantly greater permitted by land use. If something like this is not permitted, it could easily be replaced with a more intensive warehouse that would, I believe Mr. Klein would agree, would likely have significantly more truck traffic and additional impacts in that regard from a land use perspective. I'll defer to others on that. And this is a zone that anticipates outdoor storage as well. In my review of the subject property, it's clear to me over time that the intensity of this site has diminished significantly over time. The level of activity, and I can hand this out to the board showing, if you'd like to see it, aerial photographs over a period of time from 1931, shows that the intensity of this site has significantly decreased in terms of the amount of building square footage and how it was utilized. It's a site that initially predated zoning based on its initial development back in 1910. Skipping around here. Apologize. So we have a site that's over 94 times larger than the minimum lot size, and we're internally, again, locating this operation within the site. Site was previously used for a bottle manufacturing facility for some time. That was discontinued in 1987. That's partially what I think those areas were referencing as well. The areas where the bus parking is being proposed, these are already disturbed areas of the site that are paved and developed, and for that reason they are particularly well suited to park vehicles on them. While the zone does not specifically permit bus parking, it does allow for storage and contractor storage yards as well. As well as other uses that you would anticipate, a lot of outdoor storage associated with auto repair shops and the like. Your master plan indicates your zoning ordinance indicates the purpose of the industrial zone district is designed to protect and concentrate those commercial and industrial manufacturing uses that are currently viable in those sites for which industrial commercial reuse is feasible and probable. It says that the zone was also designed for those industrial and commercial uses which have a minimum environmental impacts but have vehicular traffic or utilitarian or operational requirements that they make them more appropriate located adjacent to major arterials and compatible land uses rather than residential uses. So it anticipates a high amount of traffic here. Goals that are advanced: expand the allowed uses in the industrial zone to permit more economic activity and generate employment opportunities. And one of the things that the board always evaluates, promote borough pride by upgrading the appearance of industrial properties. Here, I think as a condition, maintaining the landscaping on the outside of the site that exists today. I know landscaping was raised, they're probably not part of the other application, but my understanding as a planner, a CO was granted for that use. So apparently they did meet resolution compliance. If landscaping has died, the board has some ability to probably have some of that replanted, if that's the case under your maintaining of your active site plan, I would think. So from a land use perspective, again, we are an inherently beneficial use that promotes the general welfare. In terms of the site itself, I think I've shown it's heavily underutilized in terms of how it's the requirements of your zone standard, and what the applicant alternatively is looking to do is to increase the amount of outdoor storage by 0.2% versus the strong need associated with bus parking, so kids are able to get to school on a daily basis. So I believe this is an application that meets the burden of proof for use variance relief and would result in sound land use planning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ricky? Gentlemen, our planner, do you have any questions?
Chairman, Mr. Ricky is correct that this is an inherently beneficial use by case law, and I concur with his other statements of fact.
Okay. Chris?
I have no questions.
Okay. So the board, I think what we need to do is, I'm sorry, Mr. Cali, you have, I guess, no more witnesses. Do you have anything else to say?
No, that's it.
Okay. What I'd like to do is,
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
I don't know
sure.
for which expert, but do you have the numbers on, I'm sure there's a big reduction in number of trips and number of employees going there in the summertime? Or is it going to be the same like the 136 employees?
Right,
and
good question.
100 trips? Or is it going to be significantly reduced during the summer months?
Probably reduced by 30%.
By 30%? Okay. And the second thing is just the,
would you come on up, please?
yeah, I'm sorry, can you come up? Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were the operations guy, I didn't know what you were
If you
testifying
could just state
to.
your name again so I can...
Paying the applicator.
The other question is, I have 100 buses trying to get out of there in the morning. You say people are going, how does that work where they're pulling the buses out and then trying to get their cars in when there's, I know there's not 100 going at once, but how does that work?
Yeah, so it is staggered. So basically, the driver would pull out the bus in the main drive alley, park
Okay.
the car, and then proceed on his or her way.
Okay, so there's room
basically.
for like 20 people doing that at once to,
Yes, because we have the buses situated around the area in a certain way where it doesn't interfere where I have a problem where I have 3-4 people trying to park right there in that vicinity. No, we park
Okay.
it strategically, if that answers the
okay,
question.
that's all I have, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. So if we have no more questions, we're going to reserve the right to have our conversation after we open up to the public, and if you don't mind, Mr. Kelly, I'd like to do that at this point. Is there a motion?
I think I have one question. So
Yes, sir.
Maybe for our professionals, is there a reason they've been operating for a year and we haven't heard this? Is there a permitted temporary use or?
So what is the answer to that question?
The applicant was in violation of the code, and I believe there was a court action, Mr. Collins. I defer to your...
The tenant commenced operations following a building permit. Zoning quickly flagged it. Once it was flagged, we promptly filed for site plan. The municipal action was stayed. The zoning official agreed to effectively dismiss it because he knew that the applicant, property ownership, who we are representing, acted in good faith to diligently file an application with the board to prosecute a site plan. During that interim, we were in the limbo of completeness for several months. If you see, our county approval is dated 2024. So this is how fast the applicant flew into action to submit a site plan. It took a long time to get here before the board. We could have been here months ago, perhaps should have been, but this was sprung into action about a year ago, and since then, the school bus operator had been on site, operating with the knowledge of the zoning official during the pendency of the outcome of this application.
That's interesting.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to open the public.
Motion made by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. Clemente. All in favor? Okay, anyone from the public wishing to speak about this application only, come up now, state your name and address, speak clearly, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Justina Pastor, and I live at 78 Pembroke. I know this is about this, I'm here for something else, but this was all very interesting. And I don't know if these are suggestions or questions, because I have 3 kids and I drive the boulevard probably 30 to 40 times a day between school and sports. I do know, so I'm on Pembroke, kind of towards Nobehagen Park. In the mornings, the buses at the light trying to make the left-hand turn get stuck there with the 2 lanes of traffic. So I don't know if you guys could maybe look into making a left turn signal there so they could clear the area, because traffic gets bogged down when they're coming back from, I guess, taking the kids to school, but usually it's like bus number 966, and then I forget the other one, but they can't make that turn, and I'm like, they're always like 2 or 3 in a row, and they can't make the turn, because, usually I don't know when the employees are leaving, but that light is extremely sensitive, so when it's mass traffic for everybody trying to get the kids to school, as soon as one of the cars pulls up, everybody's gotta stop, because one car pulled up coming from 8th Street. So I don't know if you guys, or if that's the county, can do something about that. But, so it's like an after effect of traffic that,
Okay.
and then between like 3:45 to 4:45, when you're heading down Monroe and it's almost impossible, like maybe 1 or 2 cars can make the left-hand turn heading towards Route 22, because all the traffic coming from the high school gets the right of way. So if anybody's leaving that area, you can't really make the left-hand turn.
So if I understand you correctly, the traffic coming from the high school has been impacted by the traffic of Durham bus?
No, well, no, Durham, like, it would be more so the employees if they're leaving. I don't know what traffic it is, but during that time, if you're leaving, like, I call it flexi van still, but if you're leaving that area and you're heading on that road and you want to make the left-hand turn at the light at 14 to go to 22, maybe 1 or 2 cars can make the left-hand turn. Like, you just can't get through there because all the traffic coming from the high school, like, it just, it gets bogged down there. So I don't know if you guys can make an arrow, like, if they could just study that area too, just to see, how that's affected from the volume. Because those are the 2 main areas out of there.
Is that something we looked at?
Sorry, so is it 14th and the Boulevard?
So it's
14th and Monroe.
14th and Monroe, so you're leaving Durham bus and you're heading towards 14th Street.
Okay.
And if you want to make the left-hand turn to get to 22,
Okay.
that gets backed up really bad because you can't. The light's pretty quick and all the traffic coming from the high school gets the right of way. So that area gets really bad.
The light timing is geared for lower volume traffic. It is a truck route, however, the light timing is exactly the same as it would be for lower.
Right. So there's probably no detection, it's a fixed time cycle.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the reason it is like that is, once again, I'll reiterate, that intersection was a big problem many years ago. We got in big trouble, somebody got into an accident there when the light was out. The Waldorf case, you can look it up.
So to that question,
The power went out, is that what you're saying, the power went out?
Yes, the power went out.
Okay.
But
Please
I'm
keep
just
it-
saying,
okay,
again, a lot of attention should be given to it when we change.
so Mrs. Pastor, that question really would go more towards the governing body.
Okay.
I don't think that would be part of the planning board, because that would be a traffic jam going left down to 22, which is not impacted really by this application.
That would be when the employees are leaving. So the buses have come back, so now everybody's leaving, and that affect, and even like, so if the employees are leaving, they are now either going down Monroe or they're coming up H Street, and that affects that whole traffic
So
pattern.
these are cars at 4:45, 5:45,
like that.
Yeah, like 440, like 345 and 445. I mean, if they're doing a study anyway, it was just a question if that.
Well, that's
Or even that left
You
turn.
won't see that
lane.
impact if you do it down on 8th and Monroe.
Right.
The impact, what she's talking about, is going westbound on Monroe towards the site.
Oh, okay.
School was let out. There's
Right.
a series of cars that stacked all the way down to 17th Street.
Okay.
And it's not a direct result of that traffic.
I didn't think so, right.
This is just a direct result of.
So it's an existing condition that you should let your
Well, no.
borough engineer know.
Well, no, but this
Yes.
is employees now leaving Durham bus.
They're doing it now. They've been doing it for a year.
Yeah, and it's been pretty bad.
It's gotten worse this year than it was 2 years ago?
It's been bad, and I get stuck, every time somebody comes up through that light, the lights, 4 lanes of traffic have to stop. The buses, every time they come up, 4 lanes of traffic have to stop. The buses get stuck at that light because they can't make the left hand. I don't know if that's not your fault with the light, but that might be a county thing, but the buses cannot make that left-hand turn because there's 2 lanes of traffic coming, and they get backed up there too.
It's made worse only because that existing stack that we're talking about going towards your site was already existing, and now the addition of vehicles going away, making the left, repeats.
But again, I think what we need to do is that we have our planning board engineer is also part of our town engineering firm. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to bring that to the attention of your office to see if something could be done in order to correct that at that level. Okay.
I'll bring it up.
Bring it up, please.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
For this, yes.
Okay. Okay.
To be continued.
Wow. To be continued.
Well, you said it was only for Durham bus, right?
Oh, it's just only for the Durham bus? Okay. Is anyone else from the public?
She wants to talk about Durham bus.
She just did. But she kind of thought it was kind of Durham bus.
Seeing no one in the public for Durham bus, I make a motion that we close to the public.
Motion closed by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. DeLuca. All in favor? Aye. Okay, here we sit. We now,
Does he want to sum up? Larry, do you want to sum up, or are you done?
It's like, I know that you've asked all the right questions, board members. I know you get the application very well. Very briefly, it's a relatively simple, straightforward application for a use that has been confirmed to be inherently beneficial on a significantly oversized property in an industrial zoning district. The delta of relief is nominal. It's 0.2% of additional site coverage. It is, you cannot see it. It is imperceptible from all abutting properties. The lighting sources will not impact residents. They will shut down. The applicant is amenable to the look-back study and/or the equivalent of petition the governing body, should it be deemed necessary. The applicant is amenable to the supplemental oil, water, separation measures, Mr. Chairman, above and beyond what is actually required from an engineering standpoint. And should the board desire any further safety implementations on this property regarding site access, because there is some known concern, or at least some reasonably anticipated concern, the applicant is amenable to that as well. You've heard testimony from 3 expert witnesses, as well as a tenant operator who's a proven operator. This is not their first time in operation. Yes, they are on site now. This application was filed over 11 months ago, Mr. Chairman. I just confirmed in my record. So this was filed promptly by the property owner, who wants to be a good citizen of the town and has a large asset in this town to protect and to take care of. Relatively straightforward. I have not heard any major concerns from any board members or your staff that cannot be addressed by way of applicant conditions of approval. So with that, I want to thank you folks again for your time tonight. I know it's getting late in the night. You've spent all night on us. We are very grateful for that, as always. And we put it in your hands, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you, Mr. Cali.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
May I ask a factual question based on the most recent testimony?
Absolutely.
The applicant has given us the status of the security on site. Has a Knox box or equivalent been proposed on the actual operations building, which, as we know, is going to be a maintenance building as well with flammable lift?
Yes. So we have Knox boxes, one for each side of the site. They are currently in place.
And for this building as well?
They are, because of the multiple tenants, we did not require each building to get one. There's one for the right side that has all the keys for that side, and there's one on the left side that has the keys for that side.
So you have access?
We have access.
I withdraw the question, Chairman.
And Mr. Fruit testified that whatever access is desired by the borough, we're certainly amenable to. Let's get moving.
Okay. It brings us to this portion of this application. First of all, the board members and everyone else has heard this application. Is there anything up for discussion, or do you feel that we have exhausted it at this point? Anyone? The only question I have is about lighting. I wasn't 100%, I guess, taken away with the lighting. Is the lighting sufficient and everything is good, it doesn't impact the neighbors? Is that okay?
Yes.
You okay? All right, good.
It fronts along the river, and it's
Okay.
on the other side of the site, away from most of the residents.
Okay. Yes.
The one thing I'd like to see is some kind of traffic control device at the exit. And then possibly that could be removed if the town went ahead and did a 3 or 4-way stop at the intersection. But I don't want to put that in the hands of our police and mayor, if maybe they seem like it doesn't need it, or maybe that takes a long time to get the ordinances passed and everything else. So throw a speed bump up, or even a stop sign that, and require their buses to make a full stop upon exiting their property.
Am I in the wrong location? I thought I heard the speed bump was already there.
There's a speed bump on the inbound side, it's probably about 30 feet in. There's one on the outbound side, it's probably further back.
Okay.
I mean, a stop sign would be fine, and just require the requirement, you know, as their condition that they, or their drivers must stop.
Well, yes, sir.
So does that have to be done for every occupant, that stop sign? I mean,
Shouldn't
you
you
know,
stop sign anyway?
so should be-
Shouldn't you stop there?
you should stop there. Yeah.
Yes, but having a sign.
No, agreed. I mean, we've done plenty of developments that we've asked for a stop sign to be put in.
I mean,
It's
that
not a
would be
big
a
deal.
detriment, and the town decided down the road that the 8th Street Monroe should be a 3-way or 4-way, then they will.
Okay.
So that has no effect on, I don't think it should have any effect on the other tenants, putting stop sign or another speed bump up, whatever Mr. Scuderi suggested.
Okay.
Right? I think they should all abide by it.
I don't know. Well, listen, it's not my...
That's his call.
Hey, guys, we have to have one meeting. You want to talk, we can certainly give you another opportunity. But I don't know how far we're stretching the stop signs and how far we're doing all this. You know, we're talking about, let me put it out there this way. So right now, we heard the testimony. If no one has anything to say, I guess I have to do the same, right? So I'm I am impressed by the application's professionals, specifically the project planner who laid it out as best as he possibly could. He took us down the whole lane of the do's and the don'ts and the positive and negative criteria. And yes, I do think they outweigh and they make sense. As far as the 0.2%, 875 feet, you know, given the size of the site, that's like a needle in a haystack, right? So it seems as though the applicant has been fully cooperative with everything that the planner and the engineer has asked, everything that the traffic expert has asked, everything that the board has asked, and, you know, it just seems like if we can recite all the things that I didn't write down so eloquently, I'm sure you did, Lou, that we put that into a motion to approve this application based on what was discussed here tonight, that is what I would suggest. Yes, Mr. Grimaldi.
The only thing I would add to that is that the applicant has been on site, and I don't think we've seen anything in our reports or anything that the police or traffic have cited anything specific in this last year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because when I heard that they were operating there for a year and then they tried to get their paperwork together and this and that, no one here nor them has brought up that anyone had difficulty in citations and accidents or anything. It wasn't brought up, so.
Yeah, seeing that, you know, our police although they may be slightly undermanned right now, they're doing a fantastic job, and I don't see that they had any incident. I am within 4 blocks of the exit. Little time frame picture, I'm walking there from 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning with my dogs across their path.
Uh-huh.
It's,
So for a nominal fee, can you supply security? So I agree
I
with
would like
that.
to make a motion that we approve this application with all the, whatever you want, the restrictions.
But they should be
or
recited at
adjustments.
this point.
And we're going to recite it, yeah. Because I have a few, I don't know if you're going to hit all of them, but I say we get going. Okay, sorry, Mr. Waltley.
The conditions that I have over and above are normal, standard 5 or 6 conditions that I put in everything. We're talking about refuse, oils are contained inside the building. The reports of our professionals are okay and can be complied with. No fueling on site. Water, water separators. Chris, I'm going to leave you on upstream inlets.
Yes.
Okay, got that. Maintenance is indoors, as is washing of, or cleaning of buses. No body work, no painting of buses. One of the mystical conditions is this impervious surface. Is it possible to reduce that? My notes have, it'll be looked at between the engineers and see if anything can be done to remove more impervious coverage. That's what I have.
Well,
Okay.
Because we don't know. I mean,
I think we said that was pretty minimal, needle in the haystack.
Yeah, I mean,
Needle in the haystack.
they've testified that they've looked at it 10 times, and we don't know. So, I have that. Are we doing anything with this, with a multi-way stop sign, or is that?
Yes, we talked about that they,
Look at study.
Mr. Kelly would take care of that with our engineer,
In
right?
town, yeah.
Is that what we said?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to have that in your report. Everything that we said here, I'm sorry,
Okay, I don't know if you were done with your additions or what's needed, but we talked about, I want to make sure that they're going to use truck routes only, right? I mean, I know they said that, I mean, that's pretty important, right?
Truck routes.
Am I wrong with that? I mean,
I think
that's,
that was in compliance with our professionals' recommendations, and they agreed to that.
okay, so we don't have to have it in here then?
yeah.
Okay,
Applied by
yeah.
Borough Code.
Okay.
What truck routes,
They testified that they're going to use truck routes only, right?
correct.
So I think that's really big, that's important.
22.
I don't care where it is, that wherever they're going, they have to use the truck routes, correct?
Mr. Klein.
Right, but there is a lack of signage, so
Well-
at Monroe, at 8th, they need one eastbound. So
Yeah,
they can go straight or make a right turn.
That was on my next thing.
And then
Replace the
at
truck
14th
signs.
And then at 14th, they need it there as
Yeah,
well.
that's-
Tell which ways they can go, I think straight and
That's-
left.
Truck routes only to be used to Route 22?
No, I think it's just
That's
any
what
of
the
the two
existing,
locations.
existing truck routes.
On Monroe at 8th and on Monroe at 14th.
Got it, okay.
So that signage will be provided?
Yes. Now, that's
How we gonna
right,
do that?
they can't
Well,
install
they
a sign
can't.
on the public right of way.
So how does that condition get written?
So it's really not a condition, as we exhausted that
Right.
before for 45 minutes. What we'd have to do is take a look at what needs to be done. And
Tell the
then,
drivers.
yeah, then we'd have to come back, and by way of ordinance, we would have to put it back in,
If we did
right?
signage, then we have the issue of
Am I wrong?
governing bodies.
I don't think the ordinance changes, I think it just verifies that you can go eastbound on Monroe at 8th, and then when you get to 14th, you can go straight eastbound on Monroe or make a left on 14th. That's what the ordinance says the truck route is, we just need 2 signs to confirm that.
Can we just have the applicant get together with the traffic sergeant These are the signs that should be provided, we want to provide them, and the DPW needs to install them.
That's perfect.
We're glad to do that. I think maybe you want your own official though to coordinate with the police, because you're gonna want the language of the location, you're gonna have better eyes on it.
Mr. Monroe left on 14.
We would instruct Mr. Klein to take care of that, okay? And we could put that in,
I'll take care of it.
I don't want to say as a condition, that is a condition of resolution, that can be a condition, okay? Now, with that being said, they will also comply with everything that Harbor and Shamrock's
Yes.
reports. Yes, sir.
Do we have, all lights will be turned off by 8 PM?
Well,
That's the
I wanted,
plan.
Jam, we're so far into this. I wanted to talk about that. Do we really want the lights off?
Security or
Yeah. Or dimmed, maybe?
I think if they don't affect anything, what do we care?
Well, the applicant has testified they have no,
You don't want a dark site.
Listen, I think you don't want a dark site, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's sometimes that I've worked late, and, you know, employees have worked late at night, and all of a sudden the lights are off in the parking lot.
Yeah.
At our facility, and I don't know if you could say, like, you don't know, because you don't want to kind of, a woman or anybody walking out by themselves in the dark at night, so.
I know that we're in the middle of a motion, but I have to ask you a question, Mr. Kelly. Is it problematic to segment the lights at a certain hour, that if you have 40 lights, maybe only 20 of them are on, or they could be dimmed?
We could certainly dim them. With the LED, it's certainly.
By
able to dim them.
when? 8 p.m.?
The applicant, and Mr. Fruit just reminded me, his testimony wasn't so much that we'd have a hard cutoff by 8. We know we're out of there in the 7 o'clock hour, perhaps 7:30. In the winter, it's dark, so a natural time for shut-off would be 8. But Mr. Fruit's testimony was that we want to sort of be masters of our own domain as much as we can to make sure that there's proper safety and visual identification for our folks leaving, coming and going in that hour. Ties into the safety we talked about at length. If there's an issue in the field, we could revisit it, we can dim it, we can shut off some.
Okay.
We could do a look back like that with Harbor down the road if we need to. We're not near any of the residences, so we don't think it's gonna be an issue. We're not looking to have it be Yankee Stadium all night anyway. It's really not efficient.
If
But,
there's a problem, we can.
but perhaps the condition not give us a hard cutoff on time, because that might not work for folks in the field
Okay.
on the wintertime hours.
So we're off the hard cutoff and we got down to dim. Yes, sir.
perhaps the applicant will provide us, as part of resolution compliance, a proposal for what they suggest for lighting, to be subject to review by your professionals. If we disagree, we talk to you. If we agree, we're all done. Or let them propose what they want,
Well, go ahead. All right,
in accordance with what they've just said.
okay. But we are looking to probably dim the lights.
Dim, I already have that written down, Mr. Chairman, absolutely.
All right.
Lights to be dimmed as so directed.
Darker.
Mr.
Real quick, do we resolve the stop sign coming out of the site?
So
or
we
speed
can
bump?
pull that off. We looked, Mr. Grimaldi looked at Google Maps, and there is a stop sign, speed bump fairly close.
Oh, there it is, okay. It's close.
As long as that speed bump's still there, then we're good to go.
I'm going to remake my motion for what Mr. Rego done for our conditions.
With these conditions, I'm going to remind the board, Kathy, only 7 people vote. And the applicant needs 5 votes of the 7 to prevail. 7 affirmative votes for this approval. With the reminder that this is inherently beneficial use, and that makes a big difference in terms of.
Okay, are you clear with what we just said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're, okay, we're good.
So there's a motion on the floor, I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion, did you want to say something before we did this?
Just to confirm, Mr. Kelly, you're going to provide us with copies of the county board and the exhibits, copies of the exhibits.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, there's a motion from Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. Mazzio. Roll call, please.
Mr. Paserno?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzio?
Yes.
Mr. Ladowdy?
Yes.
Mr. Scuderi?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
And Mr. Grimaldi?
Yes.
Congratulations,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much, folks.
Can I make one quick statement to all of you out there, especially your witnesses and their testimonies? I hope I didn't mean to slight anyone when I said I was very impressed by the planner. I think all your witnesses did a great job. I think you did a great job. Thank you for bringing that to us, and it does make our job a lot easier, and we welcome these gentlemen into town, and hopefully we can get something done. So thank you, Mr. Callen.
You're always fantastic. Every time we're here, we appreciate it. But I am going to hear this from Paul Rickey till the end of time. You didn't do me any favors, Mr. Chairman, that's okay. I appreciate the kind words.
It just went up to 200.
I think an hourly fee boost is an order.
Okay, thank you. We have a few more things to conduct. Thank you, guys.
Jasper went to see a kid
Okay.
play out at a baseball game. It was a nice thing to do.
Okay. Folks, on your exit, please, we're still in session. Are there any comments for the good of the board? Kathy? Anybody have comments?
I just want to
Yes.
thank our planner for looking out for our interests
Yeah.
at all times, and he really spelled everything out.
Yeah, may I echo those words?
I do have one trivia question. I know they brought up, Mr. Ricky brought up our master plan. Are we anywhere with this?
Well,
Since it was just in mind, I just,
Yeah.
where are we?
Progress. Go ahead, Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, my associate is making more progress than I am.
Okay.
However, things are underway and moving forward.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay. All right. Next is there a motion to open the floor to the public? Motion made by Mr. Clementi, seconded by Mr. Scuderi. All in favor? Aye. Anyone from the public wishing to speak about anything in the world, like if you were going to get us cappuccinos or something?
So I Justina Pastor, 70 Pembroke. I heard you guys were having a variance meeting about the lighting. And I actually got through to Michael Kennedy at DOCA, but he's out of the country, but he told me to email him. I sent him an email reminding them that they didn't plant any of those trees that they were supposed to plant along the border.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if they knocked down a building or put up new lights, but the lights, I actually have a decent sized buffer. And the lights are extremely bright, like bright. I actually have pictures, but I did send them to him, and he said they're gonna try to rectify, but I just kinda wanted to go on record saying that
Okay.
I don't know if these are new lights, or if things got changed, or if things were approved.
So nothing got changed by us. He was supposed to follow the resolutions and conditions, as we were talking about before, but now we could talk about that. So what we're gonna do is Kathy's going to advise the zoning officer to go and enforce the resolutions as they were set forth a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
23, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And if you're getting an impact to your property with lighting, they will have to correct it.
Yeah, I mean, I just emailed him today, and he was very nice, and he gave me everybody's list of people to email that they were gonna look into this. But I just kind of wanted to go on record and just say, I reached out to them, I know you had a variance meeting regarding other things, so I just wanted to say, I'll tell everybody.
Keep your eyes open and let us know what you see, because that's important. We give these people some leadway on conditions, and sometimes they don't follow them, and then it's hard for our zoning department to go after everybody. But now that we know, we can inform them and say, hey, it's a condition of the application, they have to comply.
So I
Correct?
I don't know which of the lights that the Durham's gonna be.
It's the other side.
And there's no residents anywhere near them?
Not really, no.
Because I can show you, I have pictures.
Do you have evidence?
Before you, I just want to, before you know, you're all kind of like.
You have to mark it, this is informal.
So this is the buffer that I have between my property and their property.
Okay.
So I don't know what kind of lights that Durham is putting in, but when there's no trees, this is how bright the lights are.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys.
Can we have these?
Yeah, you guys might want to look into what kind of lights they're putting in, because that is light pollution.
Wow.
It's like a
alien spacecraft.
Chairman, I note that the lights that Durham talked about are proposed, not existing on site. So they would be in addition to what you're seeing there.
But that's, I mean, at night,
But that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's a lot of light pollution.
But you're on the south side of that property, the lights proposed are on the north side, right? So it shouldn't impact, but this is ridiculous. So,
Around what time did you get those?
It's got to be shown to the construction official.
1 o'clock at night? Or like it's in the morning, like it's all through the night. So, I mean, they said they're gonna look into it and fix it, but I don't know if other residents, with these other lights, when there's no leaves on the trees, are gonna be affected by it, so.
So, just so you know, we don't have jurisdiction to enforce what you're asking right now.
Okay.
All we could do is convey it to the zoning official, and he would have to do that.
So, my husband lived there since when he was a kid, 1981, so those lights are new. They actually were just either recently, the light bulbs were either changed, new fixtures were put up, or the angles were changed, because it was never like that, so there's something.
Something going on.
There wasn't change there.
Show them to the construction.
Yeah, we'll show them to
And ma'am,
Anthony.
Thank you.
if I may, you can always call the building department here in Borough Hall. You call the main number, you'll get them. Tell them there's a problem, and they will instruct the code official to go out and look. You don't have to come here, you're always welcome here. We love the company. If you have a situation, you can call the borough, and somebody here will take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just reached out to them, because it's something that came off. Where you live? I don't know if it's gonna take this year, because the trees were really late.
And we did that short.
And we started going outside, I was like, it's not kind of spaceship is standing down.
Oh, excuse me.
But I did reach out.
I'm almost positive. Are you finished?
Yeah.
That's all you have?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
Is make a motion, we close to the public.
Motion made by Mr. Dottie, seconded by Mr. DeLuca. All in favor? Who's got the motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Grimaldi, seconded by Mr. Mazzio. All in favor? All right, good meeting. I like a good fight.